All right, welcome back, shifters. Once again, this is your captain speaking, your co-pilot, your fellow light guardian in arms, Brendon, aka Skull Babylon, aka Skull the Wolf, welcoming you to another very exciting, educational, and inspirational live broadcast at Paradigm Shift Central Team Roundtable, presented on behalf of ParadigmShiftCentral.com, a real-world interactive game to be able to help assist with the shift in consciousness. And what we're doing here, we're building a global team of shifters, people who are actively helping assist with the shift. We are building paradigm shift communities. We are constantly being able to encourage people to take action where they are, to be able to help make a difference, to be able to help plant seeds, to be able to help spark the light, to be able to help do the little things that make the big difference in the world. So checking in, we are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube. If you guys on YouTube can just drop an 1111 in the live chat, make sure that you guys can confirm that you can hear me okay. And we'll get rolling right into this. And yeah, for those of you who may be entirely new, welcome. We got a very awesome thing happening here as a community. Every Thursday we do these regular broadcasts through team roundtables, as well as rotating through a couple other styles that we got, including the Dream class, which is happening next week, and also Destiny School. And we also have Sunday meditation, guided meditations at Sundays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All of that which can be found through here at youtube.com/skullbabylon or live.paradigmshiftcentral.com or afterwards at Paradigm Shift Radio on iTunes. So got the 1111s coming through loud and clear, and thank you guys for your patience. We were a little bit delayed on the live getting into this one. It was just some tech stuff, but we are here now. We are good to go. And we got some topics on the table tonight to be able to get things rolling, and I'll tell you what those are, as well as just being able to give you guys some very exciting updates within the Paradigm Shift Central project that I want to be able to share with you, as well as some insight of what to be able to expect within the coming future of the project and how you guys are going to be able to be involved on that level. So again, the intention behind having these discussions, behind having these broadcasts, is to be able to create sacred digital space for community, for conscious community, people who are interested in things related to consciousness, spirituality, metaphysics, the big questions that we don't always get a chance to be able to talk about, and just being able to practice having discussion. Practice is the key word in this, and through practice we learn to be able to take these conversations beyond these broadcasts, to have them with our friends, family, strangers, and again, even encouraging you to create the physical paradigm shift communities where you are, which host regular open-minded discussion meditation circles. I'm the facilitator for Paradigm Shift London, Ontario, Canada, and we got Paradigm Shift communities all across the world, and they're popping up every month. There's new ones popping up, and again, we want to remind you that you can create those where you are too. Find a location, organize a meeting, go do free hugs, connect with people, invite them, repeat, and grow and learn. All very exciting things. So the topics that we're going to get into tonight are some of the topics on the table. We'll see where it goes. It's going to branch, but one of the things that we're doing is simply, with these team roundtables, we don't always come in with the topic, but for tonight, and as we move forward, we're crystallizing the way that we do these broadcasts. We're constantly adjusting, getting better. And so by having at least a couple topics on the table specifically, it gives us a little bit of more focus, as well as just being able to keep things within a nice little box. So the topics that we are going to be covering in tonight's broadcast include the topic of time, the elusive and mysterious, ever-present, ever-phenomenal time, and also the topic of mental health and consciousness. And for those of you who may not be aware, this week, currently, again, related to the date of October 11th, this has been Mental Health Awareness Week. So this was actually suggested by one of our friends in the community, and I know other people within our social media feeds have been talking about this, so I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to be able to come together as a community and to be able to practice talking about this. Though truth be told, we do still have the intention of being able to do a future Destiny School, which is kind of a more focused broadcast on one topic about specifically like mental health and consciousness as well. So this is almost going to kind of be like a bit of a test run, not even a test run, but again, it's just practice. It's being able to create space to be able to talk about some very important topics within the community. So I'll go into the YouTube right now. So I'm going to post that. Again, we don't always post that, but I'm trusting the fact that, we got an awesome crew here tuned in. I'm honestly like, if a troll shows up, we remove there's like no password involved, so you can just jump right in. And again, we want people to be able to be in this space with us together. So before we go any further, because again, I'm just kind of like spinning a couple plates here at once. One of the most important things that I forgot to do at the beginning of this broadcast was to be able to let the other shifters who are here with us tonight make some noise and be able to share their voice with the people who are tuned in. So fellow shifters who are here with me currently in the circle, who is Patty, Turner, and Yuga, I'm going to bring up your guys' microphones. And guys, just say hello, make some noise, send some love out to the people tuned into this broadcast. So nothing too crazy, please.
Yo, what's up, everyone?
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yo.
What up, guys?
Awesome. All right, huge bonus points to you guys. Thank you for, again, holding space with me here tonight. And I'm just going to bring your microphones down just for the next minute. I'm going to go over just a couple things at the beginning of this broadcast to bring you guys up to speed, to be able to keep you guys in sync with what is happening within the Paradigm Shift Central project and what to be able to expect within the coming weeks and especially within the coming months. So again, we'll get into the topics of time and mental health and consciousness. So if you're looking to be able to join this broadcast, then please do that as soon as you can by following the links. I know we got some familiar faces in the live chat. And so as we do that, I just want to mention that, again, you know, like for those of you who have tuned in the past, you guys have heard me talking a lot about like the team Patreon, and that's how we support this broadcast. Well, long story short, I'm not even going to talk too much about the team Patreon, but I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone who has recently added their support. If you look on the right side of your screen, you'll see the numbers for the Patreon, and you'll notice that literally just from the last broadcast we did, from the meditation, we went up from 116 to 128. So that's 12 new signups literally just within like 5-6 days, not even that. And again, that's like huge shout out to everyone in the community. A lot of that has been from my own personal intention of like figuring out some good tactics that have been working really well in terms of building community, and a lot of that is happening through Instagram. So make sure you're following me at Mystic Spider-Man. And basically the way how it's working is that I'm really putting my intention on providing good quality content through Instagram, because right now that's the best platform for us to be able to communicate with people other than through YouTube when we're doing these broadcasts, because people can like control when they see your content, they can manually like engage, and it's quick and it's easy. And Facebook is just like secondary at this point. Facebook is like a ghost town, no surprises there. But what's happening through Instagram is that more people, and this again, this is news for everyone because this is like success for the community, more people are coming across my profile on Instagram, and then through there they're connecting. They're people who have been following for a while, and what I'm doing, I'm manually going out of my way and I'm reaching out to people one-on-one, going with my intuition and just like inviting them to be able to donate. And this technique is working really well because, you know, out of that, a good percentage of the people are just like, yes, like, you know, like, thank you, Brendon and team, we've been following you for quite a while, I'd be happy to be able to support. And so again, thank you to everyone who's adding their contributions on Patreon. Reminding you real quick, those are available, those are open to people to be able to donate, and asking donation of $3 to $10 per month. And when you do that, you get your Shifter Booster Kit, which again come with your shift buttons, which have the Paradigm Shift Central website on the rim. Combine these with things like free hugs. You use these as tactics to be able to help assist with the shift in consciousness. Super effective. It also comes with your Light Guardian crystal and your laminated free hug signs. And again, there's a Light Guardian crystal on screen there for those of you who may be entirely new. So go to patreon.com/Brendon Culliton when you get a chance and sign up for that, and we'll refresh that at about an hour into the show to be able to see if there's been any new signups literally while we're doing this broadcast. And so related to the team Patreon, one of the things that's really awesome, and this is just going to be a quick thing, and then I'm going to mention one more thing about quest journals in the coming future. One other thing that's really cool about the Patreon, again, this is exciting news for you guys because this is like something that we've been working towards for a while. So there's a physical location in my community where I've got some items on a shelf. It's a place in London, Ontario, Canada called the Baker's Dozen, and it's basically a store. It's like a community center that has like 12 different community stores within it. And then within one of those stores, the Grassroots Goods Stores, is where I have items on a shelf. But because I have items on a shelf, I'm allowed to be able to hang out there during the day and to be able to use that space in ways that I want to be able to use it. One of the ways that I'm going to be able to use it in the future is I'm literally going to be hanging out there during the day, and I'm going to be setting up my button making machines. I have 2 button making machines. We invested in those. And basically what we're going to be able to do thanks to the support through the community donations and the Patreon, is to be able to actually provide local youth and local at-risk youth with an opportunity for them to be able to earn some additional income by inviting them to be able to make shift buttons for about 30 minutes at a time, and then we'll pay them $5 on the spot, literally just like in cash and everything like that. So this is a really cool idea because it solves like a couple solutions. You know, it's a solution to a couple things. Like one of them is just the fact that as we continue to get more people signed up for the Patreon, I simply can't spend a lot of my time making buttons. I'll still be doing it manually, but if we have other people helping with that, it's going to help, like, you know, distribute some of the workload from my end of things. So that's incredibly helpful. And again, it's also being able to invite people within the community, youth, and also, you know, like other people will be open to it, who want to be able to contribute their time and who are probably going to be incredibly grateful just as an opportunity to be able to make like $5, you know, like $5 for $30 for 30 minutes. Like that's a pretty good deal. And again, they'd be hanging out, they'd be chatting with me, I'd be getting to know them. And for some people, especially even in the area where we are in our town, like it's kind of like a rougher area, so to speak. So there's like a lot of like homeless people there and everything like that. And truth be told, you know, I'm sure all of us have been in this situation where $5 at some points during our life could be a lot, right? So we want to create that space where literally I'm just going to kind of slowly be putting the message out there, posting on some Facebook groups for the local area, and just kind of inviting people a little bit at a time. But then what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a routine where it'd be like every Tuesday and Wednesday, I'll be there between like 11 and 4 p.m. or something like that. And then people can kind of show up and they can help make buttons, and then they can also get supported that way. So that's a really cool idea. And again, that's like huge victory for everyone in the community because your guys' support is helping make that possible. We're helping, like, again, make that shift physically, like within our local community as well. And so another way that you guys can support, and I just want to be able to mention this because this is really important, is also the paradigm shift, the Shifter Booster Kit monthly subscription option. And so this is really, really exciting because again, this is basically a little bit different than the Patreon. The Patreon, you sign up and you get your one kit, and that includes your Light Guardian Crystal plus your Crystal Massage Wand and lots of buttons, and it's worth over $100. But then beyond that, Patreon people can even sign up for this afterwards and can combine it for more perks. You have the option to be able to get a monthly subscription kit, which starts at $25 because you're paying for the kit each month. And then through there, you're getting additional value. But it's not just about what you're getting, it's about what you're able to give to other people. Because again, your buttons that you receive are going to be given to other people. They're going to connect people to this project. They're going to tap them into this story. So that's a very, very exciting idea. And we got 2 people signed up for that currently, and we're working towards our milestone of 10 people. And you can find that at questitemshop.com. So really inviting and encouraging more people to be able to sign up for the monthly subscription for the Shifter Booster Kit. So again, huge thank you to everyone. Thumbs up. That's awesome success. I'll keep you guys in the loop. And right now for the Patreon, we're working towards our goal of being able to reach 150 active donators on Patreon. So that's our next milestone. And then from there, it's going to be 175. And then from there, it's going to be 200. And again, like the more funds that we raise, like that just creates more opportunities for us as a community. It creates more ways for us to be able to support each other. And yeah, it's really exciting to be able to do that. So thank you again, everyone, for your ongoing support. So other thing I just want to mention, and then we're going to get right into the topic of time, is basically in the coming future, as again, like right now, one of my main priorities is being able to resolve. We're going to start opening up into like other creative parts of the project. And so like one of the sorry guys, can just drop me an 1111 if you guys can confirm that the YouTube is still running properly. I'm just like looking at my side monitor and it's getting a little glitchy. If it's glitchy or something like that, just let me know. All sorts of things, and it's going to be like it already is, it's a single stream of these quest journal submissions. And again, you can already go online to live.paradigm.central and find this already. Okay, so it's a little glitchy, guys, can you confirm for me what you mean by just like a little glitchy? Is like the screen flashing? Because I was seeing that on my thingamajig. Yeah, I think it's better now. It's coming and going. Okay, keep an eye on that. Yeah, eventually once we get all like the additional funds, I'll buy a new computer and then we'll have awesome streams. But what I'm gonna do in the future, I'm gonna create for you guys, like, it's my job, again, this is, you know, part of what I'm passionate about, this is part of what you guys are helping make possible through our support, is to be able to help train you guys in your journalism, in your creation of quest journals. And so what I'm going to do, and I'm still formulating this, and we'll talk more about it later, is basically create like a specific group that will kind of be like a challenge group to be able to help people in fulfilling assignments for creating quest journals. So I'm going to teach you guys how to do video editing from your mobile devices. I'm going to teach you guys how to do like journaling. I'm going to teach you guys how to be able to like document certain events. I'm going to teach you guys like formatting and everything like that. And then again, like this is going to be a really powerful thing to be able to give you guys the tools to be able to express yourself. And within this challenge, there will be like different assignments, like different types of quest journal submissions that you guys will be able to submit. And again, that will kind of be like a timeless thing where people can kind of do it in the future and still get caught up on it and stuff. But we're going to provide that for free. And that's, again, a really exciting thing to be able to make possible within the community is, you know, I've been creating conscious media and on YouTube for all these years and stuff like that, but it's always been my objective to help uplift the community, to help create other people who are also help support other people who are also creating their own conscious media. And again, even as the project continues to unfold, another thing that you're going to see, and I didn't even plan to mention this, but it's really important, and then we're going to get right into the discussion, is also I'm going to be focusing a lot on interviewing specific people within the community one-on-one. So this is going to be a really cool thing where, again, basically like say such and such is like their own conscious YouTuber, I'm going to create like about a 30-minute, maybe 45-minute one-on-one interview pre-recorded, post that up to my YouTube channel, stylize it, make it all good. We did a version of this way back in the past with Bridget Nielsen. It was like a pilot episode, and we're going to be doing more of that. And there's so many of you in the community who I want to be able to interview. And so at this point, I want to be able to invite people to be able to volunteer. If you're like, yeah, Brendon, I would love to be interviewed. And so again, it would be like an extension of what, you know, it's another version of a podcast episode basically. And we would put it through the stream, and it would be an awesome way for you guys to be able to help get your stories out there, to get more of your art out there, to get more of your work out there. So again, as Paradigm Shift grows, this is a community platform to be able to uplift all of us. And that's like a really, really exciting thing that I'm just like super passionate about, and I'm grateful for you guys in supporting it. So if you have any questions about that, let me know, but stay tuned to it. So for all you out there, just, you know, huge thumbs up. Thank you for being a part of this. So again, centering into the intention of this broadcast, we are here to be able to help educate, entertain, and inspire. We are here to be able to help spark the light. We're here to be able to help take the vibrations of this broadcast and ripple it out. This is about building a global team of shifters, light guardians, people who are here to actively help assist with the shift in consciousness. So again, thank you guys so much for being a part of this. I know a lot of you have been around for a while. For those of you who are new, welcome. We got an awesome thing going on here. So let's get right into the discussion. And with that, I want to get right into the topic that we got on the table, which is like the topic of time. And then from there, we'll kind of decide when the conversation is going to jump more into like the mental health and consciousness. And we'll keep this broadcast pretty much wrapped up within 2 hours. I want to be able to keep it as a nice, concise package for those of you who are tuning into this. So I'm going to open, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm just going to open up actually, okay, no, I'll just get the ball rolling real quick, and then you guys can put your hand up for whoever wants to go next, to be able to just jump in on this. So, and again, inviting anybody to join in the broadcast. We got 4 of us right now. We got room for more people in this broadcast. So if you guys want to jump in, please feel free. But absolutely, you're totally cool hanging out in the YouTube chat as well. We see you guys there. Oh, and for people on Facebook, for people watching this on Facebook, sorry, Facebook, you guys are secondary. I do not have my eyes on the chat on Facebook, but I will pull it up in a second. So if you're watching this on Facebook, make sure you jump over to YouTube and make sure you turn into YouTube every time in the future. Facebook is a ghost town at this point. We're leaving it behind. So moving on, you know, forward, keep moving forward. All right, so time, let's see. Okay, practicing having a discussion about time. What the heck is time? All right, so I'm just gonna say a couple things and then inviting someone else to go in next. Okay, time. Okay, so I think like for me, time is like something that I remember, like a big part of my own personal paradigm shift was when I kind of realized that like time is definitely not a linear thing. And it's interesting because I think in a lot of ways, time is actually used as almost like a control mechanism within this reality, almost kind of like consciously and subconsciously, kind of like ultra consciously, and then like in a way that's like just kind of, yeah, like just not even, it just kind of isn't, wow, okay, I butchered that. But what I'm trying to say is, yeah, you know, like what if we knew the future? How would that affect our present? And what if we already had an idea that there were events already in the future and we're simply in the process of aligning with them? So with my perceptions of time, it really gets into this whole idea of like kind of like a quantum perspective on things, where right now, you know, like if I were to kind of draw this out in a graph, which some of you have seen me do this before, I measure time as like you take a tree where it's got branches facing up and branches facing down, and there's a trunk in the middle. You take that tree, you turn it sideways, you got that visual of like branches going in both directions, and then the trunk in the middle. That to me is actually an incredibly sufficient way of modeling time, in the sense that in the past there's all these branches which are kind of like quantum flux, and then in the future there's also a bunch of branches which are like quantum possibilities. And then time, if you were measuring it from like a left to right thing, it's kind of like this like pressure point that kind of like moves through these experiences. And then essentially the future, again, is kind of like these quantified possibilities, and yet they crystallize in the now. So what the now is like the ultimate crystallization of the best possible realities that can happen. At least that's my kind of concept of, that's the way I perceive it, because I think that this is just kind of like my theory, and I keep talking about this, that this reality is like the quote unquote perfect reality. And by perfect, I mean the best reality for our growth. So like out of all the quantum possibilities of the future, whatever we're experiencing right now is kind of like the best possible place for us to be able to be in order to be able to learn the lessons that we can learn. But yeah, long story short, I'm going to pass to the talking stick. For me, a big paradigm shift was when I realized that we already exist in the future. And for me, that brought in the relevance of synchronicity, because I understood that synchronicity wasn't just something random, but it was actually something that I could meet halfway. I knew that if I was going downtown and doing free hugs, that from a time perspective, I was already connecting with the people who I hadn't free hugged yet, who I hadn't met yet. And it was just a matter of me kind of showing up. And so if I knew that that possibility was there, then I showed up with that intention, and then I met that reality. Even if I couldn't see it, I could still see it. I could still know that there was a possibility of it. So I think like we are time travelers by nature, and I'm just going to leave it there. And I'm going to invite somebody in the circle. Give me a thumbs up if you guys want the talking stick next, and I'll pass it over to you. So Patty, I'm going to pass it over to you because I know Patty's in the UK, and I don't want to keep him up too late. So Patty, I'm just bringing up your microphone. Patty, go ahead. Give me a sound check. Make sure it's coming through okay.
Yeah, am I sounding good?
Yeah, it sounded good, man. And Patty, thank you so much for your support on the Patreon as well. Appreciate it, man. So,
Honestly. It's all good, all good.
so
Personally, I think time can be it's it is linear in one aspect, but in most regards, it's actually a scalar aspect of reality, and that the faster and the more like the faster and the more closely in line your intention is to doing something, the faster time can go towards that set goal, in terms of like if you look towards the future and you have a plan and you can set it into motion, then time doesn't really seem to go slowly if you end up enjoying yourself. And that's one thing that is really really important, to be honest, because you have to make sure that what you're doing is good for reality, but also that you enjoy doing it. Because just because you're doing something that's beneficial for everyone else, if you don't feel it's true to you, then it's just going to drag and drag and drag, and you just end up going to getting bored of it. So you just have to make sure that you're doing stuff that's, agreeing with you and agreeing with like just like, as well as the fact that like time is one of these things that we don't really know, like we won't be able to actually delve into until we've actually gone to the higher dimensions ourselves anyway. And it's one of those core basic principles of reality, as we live in 3D reality anyway. Once you get up to like the eighth and ninth dimension, they kind of become irrelevant, because time just starting to just goes and just it's completely like it's all to do with Saturn, and Saturn dictates time really. And being locked into the 3D reality is what we have to kind of break free from. So if we're going to talk about time, it's kind of like about how we can foster and create ideas that allow us to break free from the actual constraints of time, and actually allow us to get to the point where our lifespans aren't gauged by how long we've lived, but by what we've achieved.
cool.
That's
Yeah,
probably
no,
what
that's good. Well said, Patty. You get points there. Should I be giving out points to you guys? Should it work that way? Bonus points. Gold stars. No, that's good, man. That's good. It was actually I was starting to think about things as you were talking about that, but I'll save them. So Turner, you had your thumb up, or I think Turner and Yuga. Did you guys Yuga? You had your thumb up. Who wants to go first? Turner or Yuga? You okay? I'm gonna pass it to Yuga, and then we'll pass it to Turner. Okay. All right. Yuga, go ahead, dude. You got the talking stick. Let's just do a sound check real quick because I don't think we
Yuga?
got. Or sorry, hold on. No, now try because I was turning up Turner's mic. That's why.
Good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. Don't worry. I'm a
All right.
professional. Go for it.
Okay, so time being as complicated and confusing as it is, I've seen that I'll just say there's three words that I'll use to get my points across. There's empirical time, relative time, and imaginary time. Imaginary time will be astral realm, multiverse timelines and stuff like that. Relative time would be what I'm experiencing and what's around me. And then empirical time would be basically the cosmic clock. Relative time being our main subjective experience and how we all connect through source and through other material gains. I've seen that there's a lot of probabilities and consistencies that go with the fact that everything does exist. Seeing that the dream world, imaginary time, and our float intermingle and will touch with each other. There's so many profound experiences I could touch upon, and it definitely could drag on. And I know a lot of other people can. Knowing that the future is ever present, seeing that we are time travelers, as Brendon said, seeing how time can go so fast and move so slow. There's so many moments that happen that I've come to realize that time is essentially everything, that time is the key fundamental factor that exists through all dimensions as some form of love, essentially. But seeing that the best probability that does exist is something I definitely agree with Brendon on, that out of all the possibilities, out of everything that can and does exist, that not just subjectively, but in a more unified way, all of us collectively putting in an effort to go to this type of perfect new heaven, to coexist and consciously evolve in a perfect way, symmetrically, and just in any form that anyone would want, really. I think I could just leave it at there because I'm getting kind of lost in my own thoughts.
Good job, man. Good job doing some exercises there, right? Again, remember this is just like mental
such
gymnastics.
A broad topic.
It's a dude
such a broad topic.
Talking about time is like really trippy. Like once you kind of, because it's one of those things where it's just like, again, we're like in it. We're literally in time, and then it's just like, what? Like, what does that even mean? Like, what? Like, again, I was kind of talking about this. I put up a post, and it's just like imagining time literally as like the ocean of energy that we're in a sense. Like imagining time as like this like. Again, I almost think of time as like a matrix or something like that. It's like a bubble that we're in. So maybe outside the bubble, time exists differently or something like that. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Again,
I've seen how things can be predetermined. There's a lot of key moments in my life where it's like this was definitely meant to happen, but then there's so much stuff that's in between. It's hard to go off of other things. But recently, I've had some stuff that confirms a lot of things I've had prior theorized.
Yeah.
But everything does exist, in fact. I've checked.
Trippy. Yeah, exactly, right? Like just that whole idea. No, we'll pass it to Turner, and that's good, Yuga. Again, just that whole idea of like, does everything exist at once? Like, what does that actually mean in a sense? So, blown our. All right, okay, everyone, hold on, buckle up. Turner, I'm passing it over to you if you would like to go next, and then we got Luna in here. Luna, can I get a thumbs up from you if you would like to share afterwards as well? Luna, I think Luna might. Okay, we'll check in with Luna. I think she can hear us. Luna, give us a thumbs up if you can hear us eventually. Okay, Turner, I'm passing it over to you, and the talking stick is in your hands, dude. So whenever you're ready, give us a little thoughts on time. Sounds good, man. You're good.
Cool. Well, as far as time, I've always thought it was a construct of our brains, right? Our brains, information that is coming through our senses. And so, time is just a constraint of how our brains organize animating this reel, this movie, so to say, of our lives moving forward. Now, and I've kind of gathered this from my own experiences taking psychedelics. You know, when you take a psychedelic, it rearranges the neurons. It's making new connections that it never would have when you're sober. So to me, I believe when you take psychedelics, you're able to alter of time and experience time in a different way than you are normally able to. We make new neural connections every day by what we choose to believe in, what we surround ourselves in, within ourselves and without ourselves. Kind of breaking free of the constraints of our time, I think is also rewire and change our neural connections in our brains, allowing ourselves to step free of the limitations we placed before or into a new reality of experiencing time in entirely different senses of the way. You know, I've always thought about time travel many, and the common like travel movies, it's like, well, if we go back in the past, what if we run into a version of ourselves? You know, what happens if we see ourselves when we travel time? But I really do feel like that isn't necessarily a truth, because in essence, we are all connected. Every single person is just a reflection of our very and our avatar of this person we are now. The idea that, you know, the person down the street that we make eye contact with is really just another collective of who we are as a person. So in essence, we really do talk to ourselves. We run into ourselves all the time, meeting yourself and ruining this whole you know, linear concept of time. I feel like is really a misconception.
Word, man. Is that good? Is that good? You passing the talking stick? It's like,
Yeah.
that's good. Cool, man. Yeah, I think Turner, FYI, and it's not like it's just sometimes your feed was like kind of like stopping for a couple seconds. So like I don't know if honestly it all came through, but I'm just letting you know in case you want to do like a quick refresh between now and next time we pass it to you.
Yeah, I've been having some issues like that when you guys are talking
Gotcha.
as well. It just kind of.
Okay, yeah. It's like like the cable's getting pinched or something like that. But yeah, no, it's all right, man. It still came through. Cool, dude. Sweet. Well, again, I think this is good. I think we got some
too much energy.
Must be it. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we got some good ideas to be able to work with here, and there's a lot more ideas that I want to be able to like hit upon as we keep going through here. And we'll pass it over to Luna. I'm gonna pass it over to you in a minute. Is that cool? Would you like to do that to talk a little bit about time? Okay, cool. All right, okay. I'm just going to mention something real quick because even a little bit with what you were saying, Turner, about psychedelics. There's a friend of mine who's talked about this, and I think it's actually been more than one friend. I think like two people who I know who've talked about this, where like on psychedelics, specifically LSD, and again, drugs are bad, okay. But obviously think for yourself, right? But you know what I'm getting at is when they were on this psychedelic experience, what they actually experienced was time literally slowing down. So like, you know, if you're just like walking along and stuff like that, and then suddenly like for them, this is what they experienced, time like literally slowed down, like literally, like they were in it, and you know, like your hands moving in front of your face, and it's like and like from their description, it's not like it was like it felt slow. Their perception literally shifted into a state where they were perceiving time in a slower frame rate. And again, and even you were kind of talking about frame rates and stuff like that. And again, I think like from one perspective, you know, what is time? Time is an illusion. And what I mean by that, I'm not saying that time isn't real, but again, something can be an illusion and still be a thing, right? But it's like created in a way that isn't actually like what it appears to be isn't actually quite what it is. And so what I perceive time to be, and again, I feel you guys are probably like already onto this, is the idea that, you know, time is essentially like these just frames back to back to back to back to back to back, like within this reality. And there are some people who have like synesthesia and stuff like this, and they talk about this, and even, you know, this can relate into like kind of branching into like mental health stuff as well. But there are some people with synesthesia where they'll talk about literally being able to see the frame rates of reality. So, you know, if you like throw a ball across a room, like it would be like and you could almost like count it and stuff like that. And so like in that perspective, you can literally think of this reality as, again, very much like a super awesome video game with very high frame rates per second, the FPS, frames per second. And if you were to think about this reality as like a hyperdimensional computer, then essentially you could understand how it could create the illusion of time by creating infinite amount of dimensions back to back to back to back to back to back to back, a million billion times, like every second. And then why not? Because it has infinite processing power, presumably. And then basically from there, from like that perspective, all of these little like points that are so freaking hyper appear smooth. And in the same way, that's how we have motion pictures and stuff like that. Like, this is just a side point, but like straight up, guys, if you haven't realized it yet, every single thing in technology is actually plagiarism of something spiritual. And I'm using the term like plagiarism probably in a way that you haven't heard it before, but basically I mean that like everything that we see in our technology is based off of something within our spiritual nature. Cameras are eyeballs, like movies are dreams, you know, like antennas are hairs, things like that. So you can kind of like, there's lots more analogies to that. But again, in the same way we look at movies when we're just like watching it, we're just like, oh, that's clearly as if it's happening in front of me, when in reality it's just like a collection of frames happening back to back to back to back. That's kind of what's happening within this reality. So, and people talk about that within like this quantum flux of things, if you were to really be able to like stretch things out and get all hyperdimensional and stuff, you would see that this reality isn't one continuous smooth thing. It only appears to be one continuous smooth thing, and in reality it's just a bunch of slivers, like at least that's kind of what I think about it. I'm gonna pass over to Luna. Another idea I want to talk about afterwards is the idea of like time flying when you're having fun. There's a very interesting idea that I want to be able to share with you guys about that. That's actually like a practical thing. So Luna, I'm gonna pass the talking stick over to you, and if you can just give me a microphone real quick. So Luna, can you say hello?
Hello?
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Can you hear?
Yes, we can. Okay. Cool. Sweet. Well, Luna, welcome to the circle officially, and thank you so much for being here and being a part of the conversation. So we shall pass the talking stick over to you, and when you're ready, go ahead. And hello to your friend as well. Hello.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for having me. I'm being really bashfully shy right now. This is, like you mentioned before, trying something to step out of your comfort zone. So don't mind me if I'm just a little off on my start here. But when you're talking about the psychedelics and people's experience on seeing time in kind of like frames, I will have to say that I kind of experienced that myself a couple of years ago at a rave, which I kind of had acid, but that's not what triggered it actually, because I accidentally took peyote, you know, being induced, right? I do remember I was able to see time in an effective, if I could explain this right. I saw the slits. I saw the smoothness of things moving from one frame to another. But I also got to experience, it's kind of weird to say, I guess the pride of knowing like, okay, I'm going to last for 1 second, but hey, I'm going to help produce the next slide kind of thing. You know, it was kind of that weird feeling back then. And I've used that since then. To widen myself, and definitely I've been practicing right now recently, like kind of being a hermit a bit from everybody else, but it's because I've been trying to learn to see through my third eye a lot more, like to see what you're mentioning about, you know, time kind of being a flow, but then it's an ebb flow, it's all over the place. It could be still, you know what I mean? Like there's so many aspects of it that it can be not real too, right? Like it's mind-blowing to think like that, right? So I kind of used that basis since then, and I've evolved it since then too. And recently I just I've been practicing a bit more into that, like another step. Like, is there anything more to understand about this? Like, how to see interdimensionally, I guess you can say, right? So I will say that indefinitely right now I'm noticing that I can create a space where I can have more time, like just in general, instead of feeling like cramped up, going like, oh no, I gotta go here, I gotta go there, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. It's like, no, you can add an extra frame where it's like, take a break, and I can just add it in without interrupting anything else, really. You know what I mean? Like, if that makes any sense, I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that one.
I guess that's just kind of a start right now. Again, I'm just kind of being really bashful too right now, but that's kind of where I want to start off with too as well, and just hear everybody else's point of views. And so far, you guys have some pretty amazing ones that I'm really just interested to help myself too. To, like you said, also I'm going to mention about building community and bringing everybody together and batting ideas and helping each other with a creative flow. I don't know, like that's where I'm coming down to, and it's just a lot to take in at the same time. Like a lot of my life right now is feels like it's kind of shattering. I know it's for the good, and yet at the same time I'm so scared that what if I fail, what if this is wrong, this and that. And I do myself have mental disabilities too as well, which I'm starting to see a lot. Actually incorporating healing tools for myself right now with this all together with mental illness, and realizing that, hey, maybe it's a good way to kind of see a different perspective on that too. You know what I mean? So again, like, there's just so much going on right now. I'm just trying to get myself collected in here, you know what I mean? So that's where I'm kind of at right now too. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again, Luna, for being here, and thank you again for sharing. And absolutely, like this is a comfortable, safe community space, and absolutely, I've said this a bunch before, but this is just practice. And yeah, it's great to just be able to like be here and to just like even it happens to me sometimes where I'll just be like, words, what, like, how do I move my mouth again, or something like that, so it's like it's nice just to be able to do things in a very playful way. But no, I appreciate you being here, and also to be able to again, for the continuation of the conversation that we'll get into a little bit more as we keep going through here. So Luna, awesome. I'm really proud of you for being in here. I know you've been tuned in for at least like almost like 2 or 3 months now, and now you're here, so yeah. Awesome. That's sweet.
I'm still glad I'm here too. Yeah.
Awesome. Wicked. Cool. All right. So I'm just gonna mention a couple ideas, and then let's just kind of like, we're just kind of going freestyle, popcorn style, just bounce around with ideas. That's the practice of what it is that we're doing here. And again, us doing this, let this be practice for you guys listening, practice listening to what we're talking about, while also giving you guys some ideas that might shift a couple paradigms for you. Like, tune in to Paradigm Shift Central, where you're guaranteed to get at least a couple paradigms shifted per broadcast, at least a couple. But I wanted to actually just here's one that might just like shift your mind for you, and then someone I'm gonna ask for a thumbs up in a second, so for everyone wants to grab this. Okay, again, it's going back to this idea of like, we are time travelers, because like, it's one of those things that we do it all the time, that we kind of overlook the magic of it in a lot of ways. And basically what I'm talking about here is the idea of the fact that right now we are in the present moment. Yes, we can recognize that. But crazy as it is, our brain has the ability to think of something outside of the present moment. Like, our brain has the ability to think of a memory, and our brain has the ability to like envision a future. Is that not a form of time travel in itself? Because like, essentially, again, to me, it goes back to this analogy of thinking about the universe as very much like a computer. And if you think about that, you can think about everything as data, and then you can think about the past as being data, and you can think of the future as being data. And so if that's the case, where we are, we're like at our computer, our mind is like our computer. And then we use our mind to be able to access those different data points. We literally run searches on them. You know, we'll sit here and be like, oh, what was that thing that I did last week? Here, let me run a search on it. And then it'll be like memory working. Beep, boop, beep, 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 beep. Oh yeah, that's right. I went to my friend's house okay, yeah, no, now I remember, and stuff like that, right? And so, like, in a sense, we are literally outside of the present moment in any given situation, simply through our thoughts. Like, that's like, again, I think it's one of those things. It's just like, it's so incredibly phenomenal, but we do it so much all the time that we just kind of forget about it. So again, you know, like, when we get into higher dimensions, when we start talking about dreams and stuff, we talk a lot about the idea that outside of this physical plane, we exist beyond the present moment. We exist outside of time. And yet, this is the trippy part, that perhaps time has like its own relative context within different dimensions. So perhaps the time that we experience here on Earth is one thing, and then the time in like the astral planes is actually its own kind of time, if that makes sense. And then there's like another dimension higher above that has like its own time. So it's kind of like layers within layers within layers. It's kind of, again, you know, almost like the Russian dolls type thing. And it's just kind of like, so like if we're the doll close to the middle, then, you know, like, that's our version of time. But then there's a time that's like outside of that time, and then there's a time that's outside of that time, and then there's a time that's outside of that time, and then there's like above that there's like, you know, full godhead mode or whatever, like that, god mode activate. So yeah, there's another thing I'm going to talk about related to like how to kind of a concept about like, again, time flying when you're having fun. There's something really important that I want to mention about that in a minute, but I want to pass the talking stick around first. Someone give me Patty. I'm going to pass it over to you, and hopefully again, I don't want Patty, make sure you go to sleep at some point, okay? I want to...
Oh yeah, don't worry. I'm probably gonna be going off in about half an hour, maybe.
Okay, cool.
Sure. I need about 4 hours sleep. It should be cool.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah,
Just bend it. Yeah.
Just on what you mentioned just then about time. Right, there's a guy that I recently just like saw a video about. The guy's called Jesse Elder. I'm not sure if you've seen the video about him saying that time, like mentioning the topic you were literally just saying, that how you can literally rewrite the past by like retelling how how you imagine what would happen like in the past has happened, and also you can create the future by envisioning. It's like the law of attraction. It's like, either you can allow your mind to obsess over what could possibly go wrong, or you can try and just manifest those things to go better. And the amazing thing about that is the fact that we have this like conscious ability to be able to dictate our own future to whatever end we kind of like want. And that's the thing though, is when we allow our egos to take too much control, it can kind of lead us off to the path, like off to a kind of like sort of self-absorbed path where like we just have to kind of focus on the fact that the end goal here is to just make sure that humanity is making a positive impact on this, on not just the environment around us, but the time streams that also on either side of the moment that we're in at that time. Because I've noticed from doing so many different things through my life that like I notice I've felt the feeling when in like one reality I end up like just you can just like I've seen cars hit me in different realities and like go bouncing off the top and like just end up having to do it. Then as it doing and envisioning doing jujitsu, and not in jujitsu, but like like more like just reacting in a way to parkour your way out of it. So like rolling over the car and then just standing up and like brushing it off and being like, oh right, I didn't get hit by a car, I jumped over the car, and that kind of stuff. It's just well, absolutely nothing. Probably going off into a tangent here. Anyone else not hearing me?
Patty, we can hear you.
Wow.
It's good. Keep going.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's what was that?
Dodging cars.
Yeah, no, like this is one thing that I actually had as an experience, really weird. Like it was so strange. There was 4 of my friends that were watching me cross a road. 2 of them saw me get hit by a car. So I was to cross the road this way, right? There was a car coming this way and a car coming that way. So like say the road was I was crossing the road this way. There was a car coming that way and a car coming this way. I walked through this first car into the middle of the road. Two of them see me bounce that way, and then two of them see me bounce that way. And I walked straight across the road through the two cars. And I just looked back and they were like, "Oh my God, you just got hit." And I'm like, "Guys, I'm fine." And they're like, "What the fuck?" And they all literally had like mental breakdowns because they just seen me apparently get hit by a car, like through the cars getting hit. And I've never been able to explain that. And I think it was just like one of those wobble walks where you kind of just don't really realize how close to the wire you just took yourself, but you just kind of like pulled yourself through because you were like, because what in that moment I was like, right, I'm going to this destination and I don't care what happens in between, I'm just getting there. And that's basically beauty of time is because if you can just carry on making sure you see yourself in the future doing positive things for reality, it doesn't matter what things you go through, because it to an extent, like say you're stupid enough not to see like a car in every single reality, you're going to cause problems for yourself. But in 1 out of a billion, it's not too major of a problem. You just have to be conscious on a multi-streamed level. And one thing I wanted to say before was how we think this time is like it's such a massive concept. It is like Doctor Who says, it's a timey-wimey ball of stuff. Like every single person you meet will cross your path in different ways, and every single action that you take can sometimes manifest itself again and again and again until things are learned from them. And you just have to. It's just this rolling ball of energy. Really, is time, and it carries on rolling and rolling and rolling until everyone learns what they need to, and garners what they need to from life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Word.
Word,
Man.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, no.
Sure.
That's that's some pretty intense stuff, and again, just trying to like wrap my head around like that concept of like, again, kind of like almost like experiencing a reality, but then it kind of like not solidifying, and then you're almost like you like jumped a timeline or something like that. It's like kind of like a phenomenon thing.
That's one thing. Yeah, it's the Mandela
Yeah.
Effect is something like
I've
that is
heard other
ridiculous.
people
Like
talk
the amount
about
of things. Right. Okay. When I was a kid, I remember that Nelson Mandela had died in like the 80s or the 90s, right? After he'd been called a terrorist in the 80s by David Cameron and a few other things. Then he apparently died recently in 2016. I'm sure he died in 2016, but you go and look on Google and it says he died in like 2013, right? Or something, or it's different. It's like either he died in 2013 and he actually died in 2016, or he died in 2013. Yeah, I don't know. And it's such a weird one because that term was coined after his death swapped a date like a few times. Like it just started jumping all over the place, and that's because, and then not even because, but the reason why they called it that, and obviously not just that, is the fact that there's this like not really, this phenomena is like attributed to that because there's a lot of things that have started like going wobbly, like what else, there's it's such a, the Mandela effect itself is such a wavy topic because there's so many examples of it happening, and yet there's no solid evidence and not really much solid evidence, like except for the fact that okay, there's one, it's written, and this is the thing, is the evidence for it is so minor that it doesn't really hold much weight. Like the Berenstein Bears, that's now the Berenstein, it used to apparently be spelled Stein, right? And now it's Stain or something like that. And there's a few like Chuck E. Cheese. That used to be Chuck E. Cheese, and now it's Chuck E. Cheese's. And there's just like little bits. But like this is one thing that Turner was going on to before, is what would happen if you went and met yourself back in a different back in time. Well, the reason why the Mandela effect, the theory about the Mandela effect is the possibility that that's due to time travelers going back in time and causing slight ripples, but not big enough waves to change anything. So it ends up just changing letters and tiny little details and just minute little like things between like just kind of irrelevant level stuff. But the thing I'm trying to get at here is the fact that like if you can send a thought stream in your mind back in time for a set enough amount of time, you can change the past very dramatically, and you can also affect the future in a massive way by focusing your energy towards that. And one other thing that I've also noticed as well, just before I end this like little stream, and I'm probably going to go to bed maybe in a short amount of time after, is the fact that time dilation, if anyone ever heard of that, it's a physics phenomena, is when you move faster towards the speed of light, time slows down, right? And that's a real physical phenomenon. If you travel at the speed of light, time does not exist. So, but this is one thing that I've noticed is just going up to 100 mile an hour and 150 mile an hour has a similar effect on time, because everyone else relatively to you is going through time faster, even though they're moving slower. So you're just going faster as well as going through time slower. So you go doubly as fast. And that's why the speed limit is so slow, because they don't want you to realize this, and the fact that you can actually get places so fast if you just go a bit below the speed limit, that you can actually manipulate. And like it's kind of amazing, because if you put your body through, like I used to notice that if I put my body through paces, I could walk up maybe ridiculous paces, like I don't know, up to 10 miles an hour walking, like just I mean, like jetting places. And people will be like, how the fuck do you get places that quick? I'm like, I don't know, just most to walk. Your body, a vehicle, your body is a vehicle, and if you push it to the limits, it can do astounding things, like astounding things. And I think that's one thing that I think this whole consciousness is about, is just reaching new limits, reaching new heights, and having better, better kind of principles themselves. Because the core principles you hold within, and the core principles you hold within yourselves, and like they carry through into what you do, and your actions then carry through into your habits, and your habits then carry through into who you are, and then that just carries on affecting the people that you meet. And if we carry on like advancing ourselves at the core level, not just like what we talk about, then it just really, the scope of our growth just astronomically increases. It goes exponential after a certain amount of time.
Word, man.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Sweet, man. Do you anything else you want to add on that? That was a good run.
I think probably
yeah.
not.
I mean, yeah, just kind of like sorry, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off if you had more to say.
No, I said probably not. I don't
Okay,
think so.
fair enough.
While I was talking though, I did change the shape of my snowflake obsidian.
Did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
that
yeah. I mean, you're hitting upon the Mandela effect there a little bit, and again, like I think that's like one of those things it's an interesting phenomenon to be able to study. Personally, like from my research on it, I think like I admit when I was first going into it, I was like, sweet baby Jesus, like what is going on here? But like
No,
I think a lot of it just has to do with like us having kind of like faulty memory in a lot of ways. I think a lot of it has to do with that, but I'm not against the idea that this reality is freaking weird sometimes, and sometimes like things happen. Sometimes there's like weird anomalies where like things just like don't happen the way they're quite normally supposed to.
Have you heard of CERN? Obviously, there's the research center.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the first four letters of that is CERN, CERN, right? They've kind of not even theorized, but the whole conspiracy theory around it, and people saying that the CERN is like an attempt to send either particles, or it's like a sort of a link to Saturn as well. They're trying to open a portal to Saturn to try and bring the gods that are trapped on Saturn back to Earth or whatever. The thing is, one thing I find really funny about it is the first four letters also relate back to the god of the underworld in the Celtic mythology, which is Cernunnos. He's literally like the Hades of like the Irish like mythology. And he was the god of time. He was one of the gods of time as well. And it's kind of strange, because he just it's weird. Mandela Effect is one of those where you have to be very careful because obviously the facility at CERN has a god of Shiva, and Shiva is obviously the god of destruction, and you just kind of have to like be wary of what you can unravel if you go delving too deep into it. The best thing is to be able to manipulate it to your own ends instead of trying to study things. If you can understand if you can understand the vectors that it entails instead of like trying to analyze it, it's like trying to psychoanalyze someone who's crazy. Eventually doing it for so long, you'll kind of foster their own craziness within yourself. So you have to kind of gauge what's worthwhile learning and what's worthwhile observing, and then go from there. Because too much, like, if it like a lot of psychologists, they study and help so many people that are crazy, they eventually will go crazy themselves. And you just have to make sure there's a balance within that, because you can't unless you're a being that lives within time. We are dictated to by time at this level, like a 3D dimensional reality. We are like kind of a not really a product of time, but more like a not, I wouldn't say, and I don't like to use the term slave either. It's more of just we're bound by it at this level, and we have to make sure that we get to this point where if we want to study time, we have to be above time, because if not, then you get lost in time.
Interesting.
That's why I think psychedelics are so potent, because it means you can step outside of the space-time barrier by doing psychedelics, and that's why I think, as well as mainly due to the fact that I've done LSD and mushrooms at the same time, that's an amazing combination, because it allows you for a short amount of time, like the trip on that goes bang, it's literally over in an instant, because you just go outside of everything and you're just like, whoa, this is amazing. You just see everything and anything, and you have this ability to just, it's one of those, it's got the most potent manifestation powers in like the whole of the sphere of psychedelics. And you have to be, and if you're around the wrong people, it can destroy your life. Like, literally do a trip on mushrooms and acid and you're around a person who's got a bad habit, you're fucked. Like, you literally just screwed for life. And that's why you've got to be so careful to do it in the right setting, around the right people, and do the right things while doing it, because it can cause massive waves. Yeah, that's pretty much.
Word, Patty. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing, man. There's a lot there that you definitely brought to the circle. I know Luna, you had your hand up. I think you wanted to reply to something, I'm thinking. Luna, hold on, I just gotta pull up your microphone. Patty, if you're around to stick around for a couple seconds, I wanted to be able to share my, like, one of my theory things, but I just want to be able to pass it to Luna. And guys, we're wrapping up this conversation. We're gonna segue into like mental health and consciousness in the next few minutes as we approach 11 p.m. And and I know there's a lot more to talk about, guys. This is just practice, but let me just pass it over to Luna. 1 second, Luna. Luna, go ahead if there's a quick point that you want to make in response to something Patty shared. Go ahead.
It's kind of more of a question, more or less, like about the psychedelics. Now, what about ayahuasca? Has anybody experienced that before? Is that an option to use? Because I know for I've tried that ayahuasca before. I never tried LSD, and I've heard LSD and mushroom, I think it was. But to me, ayahuasca would give out the same kind of effect.
And it's interesting. I think Luna might have just froze there for a second, but it's interesting because, I mean, like, even with ayahuasca, like, again, like tying it specifically within the concept of time, like, people talk about this idea that, like, oh, okay, I think Luna just came back. Yeah, well, I was just gonna say real quick, with ayahuasca is a very, very interesting experience, because, again, like with any of these psychedelics, it does kind of take us outside of like this baseline reality, this, like, like normal reality, quote unquote. And with like some experience with ayahuasca, people talk about it literally being, you're like reliving your past, you're reliving all of these experiences, and you're kind of moving through this whole trip almost as if it's like kind of like it's similar to a lucid dream where you're navigating it and you're able to actually like visit parts of yourself, which, again, like how is it that we're visiting these parts of ourselves? It's like those experiences, if they've happened in the past, they still exist within this like quantum computer, so we can just like load them up like an old video file and just kind of like watch them and observe them and change them, and as we observe them we can also interact with them. And Patty was just saying one thing, and this sorry, I'm not like, I know Luna's kind of asking something specific, but I just wanted to mention this real quick, because this is what we were talking about before. The idea of like literally healing, you know, one idea we can think about is literally you can, in a sense, like change your past by meditating on it. And it's kind of like this idea where you can meditate yourself almost as if you're like your own guardian angel, taking care of yourself in your past, and kind of like imagining you thinking about your past self, say like your younger child self, and you're kind of like sitting there and you're like giving them a hug, or you're giving them some sort of confidence, or you're really just like sending them love, and you're kind of like reminding them and be like, hey, like, you know, like I know things are hard right now, but like it's going to be okay. And if you literally kind of do this right now in the present, then that means that you in the past actually experience that there was actually the you in the now present who was still sending that information back. Because if it happened now, then that means it happened in the future, which was the future of the then. You know, I think you guys understand what I'm saying. So the same concept applies, where right now you could kind of just like sit there and just kind of be like, you know, like, is my future self, who's like 20 years ahead of me right now, or 10 years ahead of me, or even a couple, you know, a few weeks ahead of me, is that part of myself maybe sending good vibes back to my present self right now? And so again, it's weird. You can kind of like get into like this like loop thing where, again, you're not just like one being, you're actually like multiple beings kind of simultaneously fulfilling the same on-stage role throughout different parts of your life. And again, and it's really trippy when you kind of think about this, because a lot of us, we don't really remember a lot of our childhood. Like once we kind of like turn like 10 or 11, it's almost as if we're a different person. Like we don't really remember a lot when we were like, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4 years old. Like we do, but it's like, it's not fully solidified. And then like once we get a little bit older, it's just kind of like you're almost like this like different person. But again, that's like, no, that's kind of a topic in itself. Sorry, Luna, I just want to pass it back to you, and then I want to hit upon a couple things, and then I want to be able to pass the talking stick around one more lap, and then we'll switch over topics. But Luna, sorry, I know you're kind of asking something a little bit more specific there, and we'll just kind of dabble in that for a quick second. But Luna, go ahead, just passing the talking stick over to you, because it cut out on you before anyways. But
okay. No, again, like, I just wanted to know too, like, I understand with hallucinogens indefinitely. They've helped me, you know, not just to be able to experience seeing, you know, different dimensions and spirits and stuff like that, but it does definitely, I will have to say personally that I'm discovering this by myself right now, that it's like what you said, it kind of goes into mental health too as well. I'm finding such a weird interconnectedness that it was blowing my mind, that I was just going like, maybe I'm just crazy. I don't see or hear anybody else saying this. Maybe, like, is this real? And like, so far, this is fantastic. It's just blowing my mind right now, just to kind of see this, that I guess I was on, you know, the right path right now, even through all the uncertainty that I've been dealing with recently too. So definitely, I look forward to talking more about this in depth there.
Word. Awesome. Well, thank you, Luna. And again, as we get into like the, you know, the next topic of mental health and everything like that, yeah, again, you know, like totally just like welcoming you to be able to talk about things in this safe space in whatever way you feel comfortable with. But yeah, no, I think it's really interesting, because again, like, even, and that's like, you know, we can talk a little bit about that as we get into the discussion, like the whole idea of like, yeah, mental health and consciousness. Well, a big hot topic right now is the idea that there's a lot of people out there who are starting to begin doing more like crap, what's the right word, sanctioned psychedelic studies for helping with depression, and, you know, like using things like MDMA and things like that. So it's great to see that that's like starting to pop up, because again, you know, it's just kind of, we have this like we really associate with our ego and our identity and things like that, and psychedelics have an opportunity to kind of dissolve things in the same way we really associate with time. And again, this is kind of what I was talking about way in the beginning of the episode. I was kind of talking about this idea that, you know, some people within society will almost like use time as a way to control people. You know, think about the idea of like, be like, oh, you know, like you better invest your money before you die, like before like time runs out. You know, you only have a limited amount of time here, so you better work for the man, and you better pay your bills, and you better do all this, or else like, you know, you're something like, I don't know, but it's weird, right? Like people, and think about like even just the way how time as a verb and a noun is used in so many different ways, right? Like we spend time, we kill time, we make time, like we have time, we are time. I mean, that's just like scratching the surface, but like there's literally so many phrases that we use where it's just like, yeah, again, we're using time as currency. And when you think about it, this is a big kicker in case you haven't realized, but time is like the most valuable resource we have, because it's the only thing that we can't get back, right? Like when you think about that, it's like, what are you investing time wise? And think about how you can turn. This is something that I practice literally within the Paradigm Shift Central project. I turn time into resources. And we do this all the time, right? You know, you make a garden, like, yeah, you're gardening and things like that, but that happens because of your investment of your time. And so in the same way with what I do, you know, like I have all the button supplies, which aren't, you know, it's not too expensive to get all the button supplies. But then what I do is I spend time making the buttons, and then I use those to be able to help garner community support. So essentially, like, I'm turning my time into community support as a tactic. It's like an alchemy type thing. Again, I just want to mention something real quick, because this is what I was talking about earlier, and then I want to pass the talking stick around. And thank you guys. Not trying to hog it here, honestly. I know there's just a lot of other ways in which we can take this topic, but one thing that I wanted to hit upon real quick. Okay, it kind of goes back to this idea of thinking about time as like an ocean of energy. Think of time almost as if there's like it's like water, like we're inside of it. And now think about that whole idea of time flies when you're having fun. My theory, and again, I haven't even really read this, like it just kind of made sense to me one day. It was a bit of a paradigm shift. Get ready, you're gonna shift your pants on this one. So we talk about the idea of like, if you're the basic concept is that if you're in a quote unquote high vibration, if you're in a space of gratitude, joy, and excitement, and you are moving through time, you will actually age less. And if you are in a place of like frustration and low vibration, quote unquote, and like, you know, just constantly like complaining about things and not enjoying what you're doing, you will age faster. You will age more as you move through time. And the way how this works is that in the same way we're inside the time of water right now, we're like moving through water. Visualize this, you're moving through water. Think about the idea of like, if you're in a high vibration, then you're like an arrowhead. You are piercing through time. And when you do that, there is far less friction, meaning that you will pierce from A to B and there will be far less resistance. But if you are in a low vibration, you're complaining about things and you're not having fun, then you will move through time almost as if you're like a parachute, like you're like a big, like wide object, like a wall or something. And then if you're moving through time, there's so much more resistance, and there's actually like, you can almost think of it as like erosion. You literally think of it as erosion. So as you do that, like there's so much you're trying to push through that the time that you moved through to get from A to B will actually wear on you more. And then by the time you get there, you know, that's where you get some people and they're just like, you know, they're not incredibly old, but they look like they've lived like 20 years longer than what they have, right? So in that sense, if you're trying to like get into this place of like maintaining your youthfulness, so to speak, then it really gets into the practical idea of the importance of maintaining that quote unquote high vibration. And really, again, that's just like a place of like excitement, joy, and gratitude, quite simply. So again, be that arrowhead and pierce through time with less resistance. And again, and it also goes into this idea of like, when you're in this place of kind of high vibration, this is kind of a side idea, but you literally get into the concept of like time bending. And it's crazy when you think about that. Like, have you ever had that experience where, you know, you're with someone and maybe it's like it's a really special experience and you're just like, oh crap, we only got like 10 minutes, but then you just like somehow that 10 minutes feels like it's a half hour because you're just like really, really present, right? And then the same way, right? If you're just like, oh crap, there's like 10 minutes left of work, and then that feels like a half hour sometimes. So you can realize how like our perception changes how we experience time. So it's a very, very relative thing. Like time is not a solid thing. It seems to be very malleable, and it's a reflection of like our own consciousness going within it. So it's like it's weird that like two people within the same space can be experiencing time differently. Again, all these really trippy ideas, but really boiling back to the idea of the importance of maintaining that like joy and gratitude, and you will literally age less. At least that's my theory. So you heard it here, folks, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Okay, someone give me a thumbs up if you guys want to share something quick. Okay, you guys give me, I think you're giving me a thumbs up because you agree. Yuga, I'm going to pass it over to you, and then we'll pass the talking stick around a little bit more. Let's give this chat maybe like 10 more minutes because I want to get more ideas from you guys, and then we'll switch it into mental health and consciousness. Yuga, go ahead, dude. You just have to unmute your microphone. And also, I just give a shout out to real quick before I pass it over to Yuga. Just a quick shout out to also have Forrest in here, and again Luna, who joined recently, and we also have Zamara in here, who we haven't heard from yet. So Zamara, if you would like to share something, just like type in the chat, and I'll see the chat pop up, and we can pass the talking stick over to you afterwards as well. But Yuga, passing the talking stick over to you, dude. Go right ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome back.
Back again. All right, I wanted to go a little bit more off of what you said about going through the water and the joy, and a little bit of the Mandela, some more practical facts. It was discovered that the human heart is actually the generator for emotional center and control. And another thing about the brain is when we remember certain events, or just memory in general, the brain is actually recalling the last time we remembered it, not the actual. Having a lot of ideas that go along with that specific thing, with the time frame specifically. I wouldn't say I saw a timeline or saw the time frames, but when I did salvia, I did feel the time frames. And having my ideas and my personal theories of how time works and how we are experiencing it, I've noticed how time can definitely be influenced by my own perception, having experiences, what I've known to be called as astral time folds, visiting parallel timelines. Based off that, I kind of think that the Mandela Effect is actually, it's a psyop in the form of that the information that's being presented is actually false, that something is influencing our human psyche on a global scale to give us false ideas and make us wonder about certain things. But at the same time, it's a two-sided coin, because it could also inspire possibilities, and then that could inadvertently create those actual moments. But like the Berenstein Bears, like I think that's just something that was put on the internet, and then a lot of people just kind of freak out because, you know, that's an old thing to go off of. But back with the time frames, the way I would cognitively progress for myself is to see myself being in that one little sliver of light, like through a peephole, and then that how Brendon said, that ocean of time, how all those other timelines are existing, and I could potentially go and sliver in between to each one based off of how I'm reacting and how I'm perceiving, not just what I feel, but what is being reflected in front of me through the dreamscape. And what's interesting is how I've intentionally had the intention to specifically interact with the timeline and do certain interactions with people, kind of like exactly like a video game, thinking about the different options with your dialogue. Do I want to be aggressive or do I want to be kind? Choosing things based off of that and having the intention with the timelines, I've seen things manifest instantly. It's crazy. It's like time isn't even a factor. It's just an option. And I think that's where I'll leave it, as that time sometimes is an option.
Interesting. Yeah. Again, man, like maybe, you know, it's kind of, sorry, let me just There, okay, now you guys can hear me. They could hear me before, but yeah, no, I definitely, man. Like, what? Yeah, is time an option? Are we only affected by it relative to the story of how we perceive it? You know, like even think about like how animals, like, do they experience time differently and things like that, or like what about people who lived in the past or something? You know, like, yeah, no, it's weird, man. Like, it's so interesting to think of how much our reality is created by time, but it's a tool, you know, we can use it to our advantage at the same time. I think a really powerful idea, I'll just kind of put this out there, is when this is like for project management, for anybody who's trying to optimize time throughout their day, and this is something that I've had to learn as an entrepreneur, is to like create time blocks ahead of time for what it is that you're going to do. You say to the universe, okay, I'm going to spend, you know, like 25 minutes working on this, 5-minute break, 25 minutes working on this, 5-minute break. And then you kind of like schedule things in that order. And then when you do that, the universe kind of like already knows ahead of time. And then it fills this block with substance. It fills it with opportunity. Pretty much in the same way how we do these broadcasts, you know, like we use time to our advantage, where we're like, all right, universe, putting out the intention, we're having a broadcast every Thursday, we're having a meditation every Sunday. And then at that point, it's just kind of like, in my future concept, I've like put that broadcast into the future. We've put that broadcast into the future. It's like there's a cup there in the future and it filled it up. And so when we show up for these broadcasts, you know, even for me, it's just kind of like, oh, we're not just literally creating something purely from scratch, but it's almost like this is a weird way to put it, but we're like reenacting something that's already here, which is weird. We're like fulfilling our destiny in a sense. Like, could this broadcast happen in any other way? Or is this entirely exactly how it's supposed to happen? Even right now, like literally, if you guys were like totally synced up right now, you could probably figure out exactly what I'm going to say, and you could even help me finish my sandwiches. Psych, didn't see that coming. Anyways, finish sentences, right? Like, so it's like, it's weird, man, because you start getting into this idea and like, and we didn't talk about this too much, but we talk about like flow state as athletes, and when they're really in that zone, you know, and this is like kind of like the Matrix, right? We see this with Neo, where he'll like, you it's not like you just dodge things, but it's as if you're already attached, you're already connected to the future, and you know where to move yourself before it even happens. Like, have you guys ever had that experience where you're sitting at a desk and something falls off the desk and you just like reach your hand out and catch it, and it's like purely instinctual, and you're just like, whoa. Like, that was like how did I even do that? And it's like, again, even in that moment, it's like, even if it's by a millisecond, there's a part of us where it's just kind of like, do, spidey senses go off, and then you kind of react. So again, even like the Spider-Man thing, that's very much like a premonition. So again, this is like, we get into time and stuff. There's a whole nother thing here about how time, we can associate it with like the intuitions and the information that we receive through our chakras. And this is something I've talked about before in other conversations, but we literally can think of chakras like as different emotional points without our body that are literally created to receive information beyond the present moment. So when we get like that intuition within our third eye, like that's literally information from the future. When we get like information, like feelings in our heart in terms of like, oh, I really feel pulled to go this way, like that's actually our heart receiving information from the future. Again, I don't want to get too far into this because I just want to pass the talking stick around, and I want to be able to give more people an opportunity. I want to be able to check Zamara, who is in the broadcast. If you would like to say anything, just type, because I know you don't have a camera. Just type and just be like, I would like to say something, and then we can unmute your microphone and pass it over to you if you would like to do that. I know we also have Ron in here. Ron, did you want to say anything? And if so, just unmute your microphone, and because I'm sure you probably got a couple of opinions about time. Ron, go, a couple, I'm sure. All right, Ron, would you passing the talking stick over to you, dude? Welcome back, and
sure,
go right ahead, man.
Sure. Sorry if I have a bit of background noise here. Can you close the door? So time. One thing I've been shown is, you know, it's like what you said. It's a currency, and in my experience, when I thought I was dying, I feel that many people have this happen when they're having a near-death experience, as they start to think, what did they do with the time that they had And that's why a lot of these medicines are great to work with, such as ayahuasca and mushrooms. And this responsible psychedelic work can really help someone to really look back at their life and to see, like, what did I do with my time? And for me, the medicine showed me that I wasn't spending my time the way that I actually want to. I let my ego take over too much and allowed addictions to occur, allowed, drama to happen to distract me, and so on and so forth. And what I was shown is how to mend that. So now, by working with those lessons that I've been shown, I do better with my time. I spend more time with the people I love and less time with drama, less time with an electronic box, less time with a substance, so on and so forth. And so it's just interesting how it really is a very precious currency that we have in this lifetime. And maybe that's why, society really draws our time away from us. More and more people are working more and more. People are skipping lunch breaks, skipping, and so on and so forth, to make that money, but, also they're sacrificing their time, which is very valuable for, money, which, they can go and buy things that they think will make them happy, but really spending time with the people you love is what truly, truly makes you happy. And so I think that it's a lesson for us all to really take a inner look at how we are spending our time, and if we're giving too much of that time to things that really just sure, they may matter, they may be enjoyable, but do they actually have solid substance? Will it be something that you will look back at the end of your life and be like, man, I am so glad I went and did that. I'm glad I took that trip. I'm glad I talked to that person. I'm glad I went and bought that coffee or whatever, or will it, be more of like, man, I sure wasted a lot of time on such a stupid hobby, and there's nobody around to enjoy this hobby with me. And um and for me, I was I came to the reality that these people that I hang out with online, none of them are going to be at my funeral. So how about I hang out more with people that are actually in my life, that are going to be at my funeral. um and so that was just an honest look at myself and how I'm using my time. And I thank the psychedelics for helping me to realize that, to see that. And that's why I say, like, responsible psychedelic use is very helpful when it comes to mental health and inner spirituality. Qigong also. um I've worked with the Qigong master, and doing these exercises literally felt like I was Alex. So they're both spiritual teachers, and I definitely suggest finding one. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about time and the the Mandela effect. Like, I respect it. I'm glad that people have brought this, to our attention, but at the same time, we don't want to waste too much time, you know, uh, on
Yeah.
it, because I have seen people like, oh my gosh, this Mandela effect, and they're just researching nothing but Mandela
Yeah, but
effect over and
they
over and
get
over
sucked
again.
into the abyss. The
Yes, and you get
time of
sucked,
the
you get
abyss.
pulled into the
Yeah.
rabbit hole. That's another thing is,
Yeah, yeah.
conspiracy research. That's another thing that can take away our precious time you know, and before we know it, we're just looking up hours and hours and hours of conspiracy research, and really it's actually drawing us away from the people that we need to be with.
Word, man. Yeah, very, very well said for us. And even as you were saying that, there's some ideas rolling around in my head that I'm starting to like get a good understanding of things right now. And so I'm just gonna kind of jump off of what you were saying, and again, Forrest, that was just well said. Appreciate it. Again, we're kind of, I want to be able to like let's start to put a bow on this conversation here. Let's make it a nice little present. Get it? But anyways, was this like paradigm shift pun night? Long story short, okay. Don't worry, guys. I'm a professional. I got this. What I wanted to be able to say is that when we think about time, let's think about it from the perspective of not just what time is, but why it exists. So let's step back a bit. Let's step back and assume that we are fifth dimensional beings, if not higher, and we are experiencing things from like a different plane where like we're having experiences, but the story isn't always consistent. We're kind of like existing as if we're in like a bunch of different movies at once. It would be like dream after dream after dream after dream. This is great and this is wonderful, but there's something to it that isn't like as consistent. And so when you think about time, literally considering that the fact that it's like correlated specifically with this dimension, the time of this third dimension as we refer to it, think about it from this perspective that like it is an opportunity for us as a soul to be able to experience the unique journey of being able to literally live a life from start to end, and to be able to experience all of the growth in there as like a single sequence. And so like, again, as a soul, you can kind of like pick and choose your forms, and you're kind of but like the reason of why time exists is because it creates an experience. And also the reason for time is also to be able to create like this illusion. Again, we experience time while still in this state of amnesia, so to speak, so that we can truly invest ourselves into this one story, into this one movie that we are living that literally is our life. And so again, it's just kind of like you can think of this reality as almost like a really, really exciting video game virtual reality that souls are kind of like opting into play. It's just like, oh man, have you guys played like Earth like 2.0 yet, or like 9.0, whatever we're on, and be like, dude, like that reality is awesome, man. Like you can go there. And again, and it's not just like, I think the part of it is that within this Earth matrix, which perhaps has its own unique time elements, is that you also get the experience of like the third density solidity, which I think is something that isn't always in the fifth dimension. Within the fifth dimension, things are kind of more etheric. Again, kind of like relating this to like the game, like the dream space where things can go through things. Like the density is not the same. Here within this reality, you have both time as well as density, so it's like a very unique experience. It's something very, very special. Like, and basically that's kind of my point, is that like this reality right now that we are in is very, very special. It is a privilege to be here. It is an honor to be here. And it is like every moment within this, because of the fact that it's a sequence, because of the fact that it's like something we can measure, something we can observe, it is incredibly sought after by like other souls. Like I guarantee you that there are other souls in the galaxy that are on like a wait list because they want to come into Earth. They're like, dude, like how do I get, like how did I miss the early access sign up for that? Like I want to get in on that beta testing type stuff, right? Who's to say we're not still in beta test right now, right? And then so just kind of like that plus one idea, and I just want to be able to pass it to Turner and Luna, and then we'll wrap this up, is also the idea of thinking about time literally like parallel to the idea of like love and focus. And so think about that. Anything that you invest your time on literally grows. Like how crazy is that? And that's because where we use our time, we can't be somewhere in time without there being focus. So wherever we're spending our time on, we are putting focus on, and we are essentially putting love on. And I'm using love kind of in like a broad sense, because kind of as like Forrest was saying, if you spend your quote unquote time, aka focus, aka love, on investing in conspiracies or complaining about things, or, you know, like looking or hanging out with like people of quote unquote low vibration, then that will grow. That will become a part of you. And it's not until you remove yourself from that, where you stop spending time, spending focus, that it actually halts that growth and you can start rerouting it onto other things. So it's like really, really powerful when you think about that, you know, what we spend our time on literally grows. So that's why we want to be able to spend time on ourselves, spend time on our art, spend time on our community, spend time on our shared quest, and that will grow. So time is like water that we can fuel things with, that we can help things grow. So we only have so much time, guys. Like, as someone who is already 30 years old, like, the first 30 years, like, this has gone by pretty fast, like, in a weird way, in a really weird way, because like when you're in it, it doesn't feel fast, but you look back and you're just like, what? Like, that was like, you're like, holy cow, like, that's crazy, right? And even, you know, just from like my perspective of like the fact that like, it's like, okay, I'm 30 years old, aka my parents are older, aka my parents only have like less than 30 years left in their life. And to me, that's just like, holy shit. Like, that is not a lot of time in a relative sense. And sometimes, again, we need that impermanence. Time also really draws us back to gratitude, because it's like and again, I know this is obvious, but once you realize that something won't last forever, suddenly you start to appreciate it a little bit more. And again, and I feel that's why within the dream space, which is again where we're actually from, theoretically, based on my understanding, the appreciation for things may not be quite the same, where it's just like, oh my god, you know, like, this is awesome, and then you don't have to worry about it breaking, because you could just like make another one or manifest into a new dream. Whereas here, if something breaks, like, theoretically it could stay broken, or if something is lost, it could get lost. And so it's like, really be present with where you're at, knowing that nothing lasts forever, but that in itself is the gift. And the gift, again, is to be present, is to be in that moment of right here, right now, your breath, if you choose to make it this moment right now. So let's just like take a breath here together, guys, and then I'm going to pass this over to Turner and Luna. So be in the moment, be in the breath. So let's just close our eyes here, and let's just practice a really quick micro meditation moment of gratitude. So just be with your breath, gentle inhales, gentle exhale. Again, just gentle inhales and gentle exhales. And so as we are here in our breath, let us kind of create a promise for ourselves that we will perhaps put a little bit more attention towards being able to pay attention to how we use our time, and how we see time, and how we respect it, and how we are grateful for all of the experiences that we get to have within it. So let's take another breath here. When you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing, man, because again, like, time isn't just, it's a observation of a fluctuating wave too, is another way to think of it. Nothing will last. This too shall pass. Like, really let that sink in. Really let that sink in. And that goes for the good times and the bad times. So even the times where you're like going through things and you're like, wow, this is incredibly uncomfortable. Remember, this too shall pass. Yet don't always try to like completely take yourself out of that moment. Maybe you need to like be present in that space. Really be present with the lessons that it has. And then you can kind of move beyond it type thing. So within every moment of time, like that is where we are present to be able to like receive the lessons and to be able to continuously level up. So with every second we're alive, we're gaining new XP. So keep that in mind. And yeah, let's really pay attention to what it is that we're focusing on. So let's use our time as a community to really create some awesome things together. Let's use it to really put our love into growing some amazing experiences. So Turner, I'm going to pass it over to you, dude. And again, let's just segue this up in the next minute, and we'll talk about the next subject in a minute. Turner, go ahead, man.
Before I start talking, can you just recap?
Oh, your microphone kind of chops out there a bit. But you want me to just recap which part?
Our current topic. Are we still just doing
We're still on time. Yeah. So again, kind of what I was talking about there,
or
of like
mental health now.
Fifth dimensional stuff or whatever. Yeah, we're not onto the mental health stuff just yet. So any
Okay.
any other closing ideas on time that you want to be able to share before we switch topics?
Yeah. You know what? I want to share a recent experience I just had. And it really does flow as in being in this flow state of being in the right moment, the right place at the right time. So this I just recently lost my phone. I left it on a bus engaging in a conversation with someone, and my stopped me. The train moved on, I lost my phone, and instead of being like, oh, like my phone, panicking, like who has my phone, how am I gonna get it back, just taking a deep breath and just being like, okay, you know, I is happening for a reason. I'm just gonna go with the flow, keeping a positive mindset, and let's see where this. I did what I could to try to regain my phone. Didn't work. Okay. So going home, and before I went home, I went to this mall. It was kind of like the segue between getting to my house, and I was able to go into the store at the Mall of America. It's kind of like the in-between point of my house. And I was able to track the location of my phone. So I grabbed my GPS, took off to the location, and ended up going on this rabbit hunt of going from one location, trying to find the next location, going to the next, all the while connecting with these people who were just taking a moment of their and in this flow. It took me to a homeless shelter. It took me to a store where I was able to connect and bond with this person over life, over art, over music, over his. It brought me to a psychic. It brought me to all these different places, all these different people. And I didn't recover my phone. This was yesterday. I went to bed. I've been grateful for the experiences, and I'll move forward without my phone if that's what needs to happen. And I had a dream about my phone. I dreamt that my phone's GPS turned back on, and I remember looking at the map and seeing the GPS of my phone. And I woke up from the dream, and I went to go check my other phone, my backup. My phone was turned back on, and it was. I got a phone, called the person, he answered. I ended up going, everything, this person. I'm cutting out so many details of this story, but I got to, he wasn't there. Okay, remaining calm, in the right mindset, just trusting and having faith of the process. I ended up going to who were able to use their phone, they reached out to me. I was able to connect with them and get a hold of the person once again. It was just this homeless person. He just grabbed my phone. So whatever. And finally, I met up with him. He finally connected with me, and I got my phone back from him, but not before I spent some of my time investing in him. And I really do feel like his altered state of my channel something and that needed to be said and for me to be received. He left me with some lessons, and it was always do what you must do, maintain a proper mindset. And those touched something in me. And you know, this all happened because I lost my phone, and I often wonder back on that. You know, it's like I always was in the right time, I was always at the right place. It was just like, you know, and especially with the dream, you need to connect back with my phone. It was almost like from a higher perspective, I was orchestrating this whole experience in time, you know, allowing me to. I was in a horrible place of town. I was in such a sketchy place of town wearing my free hugs button. It was, I was asking a little bit. I kept my head up, and you know, I was able to connect with a lot of people, and I was able to recome.
Wow, you got it.
I don't. It was really interesting.
Dude, that's like some next level. That's quite the journey you're on there. That'd be see that there make a unconditional love in the YouTube chat was saying if you could make like a video of just that story and like, you know, do like a quick recap of that could be a good quest journal, right? You know, people are just like, wow, okay, cool. Because you're right. I think like in a lot of situations people would just kind of be like super frustrated, why me? But you're right, you were just kind of be like okay, like let's see what we can do with this, you know, like this, you know, like nothing's absolute here, and I think you definitely passed your own test from that higher level. I would be one way of putting it, but yeah, no, it's pretty interesting, man. Quite this journey.
It was quite a test of my patience, right? And as a whole, you know.
Yeah, definitely, dude. And that's cool. And again, like the fact that in retrospect, it's just like, wow, even that happened for a reason, because it like brought me to certain places. It taught me something about myself. So it's just kind of like, yeah. Super cool, man. Sweet. Awesome. Well, dude, Turner, thank you for sharing. Is there anything else you want to share related to time before we change subjects?
You know, like I've been thinking a lot lately. I've been thinking of, you know, how time might be this Ouroboros, right? And when you unwind the snake from itself, it's like this one linear path. Ouroboros apart, it's just one thing. And so looking at it from like this linear kind of perspective of thinking in one direction, even though it might be otherwise, we are experiencing in this one direction. How can we leave messages for ourselves along this path? You know, if we are like right here, how do we leave messages for ourselves either in the future or in the past to manipulate our course of action into a selected route? I was thinking about that a lot, and it got me thinking, man, world, how if we have a message that I want to share with someone, how do we get that message across? I was kind of bouncing this idea off of other people, and this is kind of what I got, right? We speak music, we speak words, we speak at events, we use our vocal to speak messages. We write things, we write books, we write down our thoughts, we use our minds, we think things into existence, we mentally connect with others and share our thoughts, not through speaking, not through writing, but with just our minds. And I think in this also a way of manifesting things, which is digital. And I think that's different than writing things down physically. I think using digital means is connecting through a fiber images across through this connected fiber network that computers, devices, anything that can connect to the internet to can sync up to. And so it's like, if these are our ways of manifesting things, how can we use intuition to hook up messages and follow this flow of time into getting us to the destination that we are envisioning ourselves at? I don't know. I'm still thinking on it a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot with this. I think it's just going to be like one of those things where we could just keep thinking about it for probably like 5 more hours. So yeah, I mean, we're already almost like 2 hours just on this one topic, and I was constantly just like, oh yeah, we'll segue any second now, but it's just like just a little bit more time to talk about time. No, it's fascinating though, because I think as we do start asking these questions, it really starts to kind of like break down and deconstruct the nature of this reality. One thing, unless there's anything else you want to share, I was going to add in something real quick, if that's cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, cool. This is a very powerful concept, and I've kind of talked about it before, but I'm just going to explain it a little bit better this time. And I've explained this to like some friends in person. They were like, yeah, that makes sense. Basically, okay, the way that we perceive time right now, again, we recognize it as being forward relative to our perception of it. I think that time actually, as like a construct, as like a computer code, I think it actually works backwards, meaning what we recognize as backwards is actually the real forwards. Because if you look at this reality, everything in this reality, the way we perceive it, is inverted. Like right now, our color spectrum is inverted. Right now, like we're actually like upside down in a way. People talk about this, like our eyes flip things. Everything's backwards. And so it's just kind of like this weird concept, and it applies the same way to time. And how this actually explains to things is we can experience this. It explains those moments where it's just kind of like the future, you know, it kind of explains synchronicity, where it's just like, well, how the heck am I supposed to like run into someone? Like, how does that happen? The fact is that if time itself is going the opposite direction, then that means that future reality happens, quote unquote, first, and then it kind of reverse engineers itself into our present experience. And this is really noticeable, I found, in things like related to relationships, where it's just kind of like you'll see someone and you'll just kind of like have this feeling where it's just like, what the hell? Like why does it feel like I've already been connected with them? Like, why does it feel like, why do I feel so drawn to them? Why is there such like this strong heart pull? And then, you know, like 6 months later, you're like looking them intimately in the eyes and you're kissing them or something like that. And then you kind of think back and you're just like, oh, okay, that feeling back then existed because this feeling right now already existed, and I was feeling that in the present moment. And it kind of, again, it reverse engineers itself. Like it's kind of really hard to wrap our head around, but at the same time, it's not impossible. And when you kind of do that, you can really start to see things. And again, this is where we start getting into like a little bit of that foresight and a little bit of that intuition that we were talking about. Even like that whole idea of, again, us receiving information from the future within our regular day-to-day life, where, you know, you get that feeling where like, oh, is my friend about to call me? Or like, oh, I was just thinking about them, and then they message you like literally within 10 seconds. You're just like, what's going on there, right? Again, it's kind of like the ripples from the future actually reach us in the past, and the future already exists, and then it's reverse engineering itself into the present, and then we experience it as forward, because that's like the mystery of it. Like, again, we're not supposed to know that, you know, like, oh yeah, we are going to be there where, you know, we're going to be where we want to be. We kind of have to like go through that challenge of earning it. And essentially what we are earning isn't so much like, this is where it kind of gets in this weird thing, because it's just like, is it completely solidified or not? I think that the way it works is that like we align ourselves with realities. So you have to understand that, like, if you're feeling, you know, going back to like the idea of a relationship where it could just be like, oh, okay, you know, I'm feeling this strong pull to this other person, I'd really like to be able to connect with them. There is this reality where that's happened, but at the same time, I could also use my free will to completely screw that up, to completely just like abandon ship and just be like, you know, screw this, I'm gonna self-sabotage myself, because that's what humans do. We love to self-sabotage ourselves, right? It's like in our nature. Go watch the movie Annihilation. That's exactly what that movie's about. But that's not a bad thing, because that's actually like a growth thing in itself. But again, it's kind of like this idea where if you really feel that there's a reality that you can think of in your mind and you really want it and you really strongly feel it in your heart, then that probably means that there's that reality in the future. And again, your job isn't just to like work really hard to manifest it, but it's to emotionally and energetically align yourself with that reality. And then you kind of like navigate through the stream that will take you there, and it will bring you to that space. So it's like, it's really kind of, it's trippy, but at the same time, it's like not as trippy as you might think it is. So just think about that reverse time concept, that what we're experiencing right now is the backwards version of how time actually like renders itself, how it kind of creates things, where it creates things in the future and then it reverse engineers into the past. Really trippy stuff. So yeah, okay, let's eventually switch into the next topic. Forrest or Luna, do you guys want to say anything about time before we wrap this up and move into the next topic? And drop some 1111s in the chat if that made sense for you guys, for those of you tuned in right now. Forrest or Luna, do you guys want to say anything? If I want to check, does Forrest want to say anything? Forrest says he's good with time. Okay, so Luna, did you want to say anything? If not, we'll segue into the next topic. So
Mentioned to Turner there actually that I myself too, I just recently had an experience where in a space with gratitude and just self-loving myself kind of thing, just kind of finally get to that point where I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually self-loving myself. I was kind of Thanksgiving just recently, was at a food bank or whatever you want to call it, right? And I was surrounded by people that were just amazing and creative and heartfelt and open-minded, and I never felt such an embracement of acceptance and love between so many different people. And you know, just on a random weird note, that I happened to see a friend that I kind of just recently got introduced to, and I saw her there, and you know, just, and then all of a sudden, like, just happening to be on Thanksgiving Day, and I told him, it's like, you know, this is kind of cool. We're all hanging out with each other. We're all kind of experiencing a disconnection with a lot of our, I guess, around ourselves with our friends, our family, because we're changing our ideas, our thoughts. And I know myself, I was feeling kind of alone a bit, feeling like, oh God, what if like I'm just gonna be alone? But I allowed, for myself, I allowed like 1% idea out there, like just to throw it out, like not even to believe in it, but give it a chance to see if it could prove me wrong, that there's some other path or some other, you know, time shift, I guess, or something, while being in the present at the same time. And I kind of experienced that too as well. And it just kind of blew my mind after, and it was just really amazing. And I agree with all you guys right now too. Like, and I think that's why we're kind of feeling kind of like like this energy of like, where do we go now? And it's exciting. It's phenomenal. At the same time, so scary. And it's just great to see that I'm not the only one that is kind of in this time frame and state of mind, I guess, right now. So I just want to say thank you guys so much, like especially you, Turner, too, like, and of course Brendon for creating this. All you guys, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you as well, Luna. Yeah, no, it's definitely, it's an honor for us to be able to come together. And again, it's just like, despite our differences, there's so much that we have in common, just in terms of like, be like, oh, what, like you're a soul too, what, like you're trying to figure this out too, crazy, that's where I'm at right now. Like, we're just trying to get our, you know, get control of the reins and be able to like really just kind of, again, it's like stepping into our power. So just by having these conversations, the idea behind this is it's connecting dots, it's building a better framework, and it's helping us as like hackers be able to like navigate our way throughout this system with more efficiency. That's kind of the way I see it. So shout out to Turner's cat, by the way. Turner, do you want to say hi on behalf of your cat? What's your cat's name? What's the cat's name? Sorry,
Mercury.
Murphy?
Hi, Mercury.
Mercury. Oh,
Oh.
I think his cat literally just turned off his computer. It's like right
Yeah,
there,
mine
and it
was
just
like
disappeared. That's funny. Cool. All right.
Mercury. That's the-
Yeah, no, Mercury's a cool name for a cat too. It's Gemini. So, did the cat just turn
My
off the
cat's
computer?
savage. Yeah, she
Yeah,
just dropped me.
Totally, dude. That was her way of saying hi. That's cute. That's funny, man. Cool. Well, again, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Okay, let's end this broadcast right now. Psych, just kidding. No, can't do that. Still gotta talk about some important things. And we may or may not talk about it for 2 hours. Again, like I just want to make sure that we're not up till like 2 a.m. So we'll put a cap on this episode for 1 more hour. We'll put it at a 3 hour. That's okay. Because again, I do want to create some time for this important discussion. And again, having it synced up with the collective theme that's going on right now of like mental health awareness. Last thing I just want to mention, concluding on the time thing, is just being aware that like from the present moment we can cast our intentions into the future. And so like as we do that, we're kind of projecting our intentions through time, and we're kind of creating like those like power nodes in the future that are like energy vortexes that kind of gravitate towards what it is that we wish to see. So it all goes back to the power of the mind, and our mind, in the same way we were talking about, literally can go through time. So if we think about things and we envision our dreams, we envision our intentions, we envision what we want to create literally just for today, it begins with the thought, and the thought exists outside of the present moment. So think about it, you know, if like it's like, oh, you want to go get like a glass of water from the kitchen, you have to think about that before it happens. Oh, what's that? You want to like manifest your like, you know, your dream job, or you want to like find like a, you know, go on an adventure or something like that. You have to think about that before it happens. So be very aware of that, of like how right now within the present moment you are using this present moment to like cast your thoughts into the future. You're kind of like throwing them out there, and then like a boomerang, you have to be like ready to receive it for when it comes back to you, kind of thing. It's like this simple metaphor I've talked about before is this just related to like law of attraction. Imagine yourself like standing on a rooftop, and you take a boomerang, and that boomerang's your intention. You throw it, and then you put it out there, and then you wait for it to come back, but you have to be there to catch it when it comes back. If you're like standing there and you're just like, oh, like I guess it's not coming back, and then you get off the rooftop, it's going to go right past you, and you know, you're just gonna be like, oh, where to go, right? But it's like you got to be ready to receive the realities that you're creating for yourself. So it's like, it's this very powerful idea of like meeting the universe halfway. It is about going with the flow, but it's also about being like that conscious co-creator. And sometimes this is kind of side tangent sort of thing, but like, you know, we talk about this idea of like going with the flow, going with the flow, going with the flow. Sometimes it's equally as important to be like, it's sometimes it's good to be the leaf on the stream. Sometimes it's equally as valuable to be the rock cutting the stream, sort of thing. And use that metaphor in whatever way makes sense to you, but just kind of like realize that like sometimes it's just kind of like going with the flow isn't always like the best process. Sometimes you almost have to like stop the flow and like change things, sort of thing. So listen to your intuition, it will kind of guide you through that. But again, the time thing, very powerful topic. Keep having these conversations. There is a lot more to continue with this. For those of you listening into the future, leave your comments down below on anything that you want to be able to add to this topic. And yeah, I think time is a very, very beautiful thing, and I'm grateful we have it, and I'm grateful that we can literally share it. So hooray. Awesome. Yay, transcending dimensions. Yeah. Okay, so let's move into let's move into our next topic of discussion. And again, you know, like this is a very important topic. And within the Paradigm Shift Central project, we actually have a mental health team. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is something that you'll see more of it in the future, but we do have multiple teams within the Paradigm Shift community related to like animations, creating conscious articles, music team, what are some dream team, a few others, and then one of them is mental health team. So mental health is actually something that, you know, I really wanted to be able to create space for within this community, because it's one of those things where it's like, we're all human, we all have brains, we all have complex bodies. Mental health is something that relates to all of us. And so mental health week is kind of like what we're in right now. And obviously when we're talking about mental health, we're also talking about a lot of the stigmas behind it. We're talking about a lot of things that people would refer to as like disorders or conditions, you know, things like even just like depression, something that is becoming more and more common these days, clinical depression, and also even like bipolar, schizophrenia, again, even like synesthesia, things like that, OCD, ADHD, again, obsessive compulsive disorder, again, even like the term like disorder, right? Like it's kind of interesting how we kind of like label certain things. So at this point, you know, in theme with the fact that this is mental awareness week, I just want to be able to like create this as a safe space for us to be able to talk about things and for us to be able to kind of like relate it back into the idea of, you know, like, why do we as humans experience various states of mental health? What are ways that we can optimize mental health, and what are ways that we can help destigmatize sort of like, you know, the preconceived notions about mental health? Can we kind of like bring it into the light? And so for me, you know, mental health has been something that has been a part of like my reality growing up. And I don't want to talk too much about personal stuff, but there are people within my family, within my immediate family, who have suffered from depression. And so it's something that I've like been around. I've seen it. I've seen how it affects people. And I've also been in situations where like I've been in a place where I've been able to like hold space. And again, this isn't really divulging anything too personal. I can talk about this in a general sense, but in one of the relationships that I was in, like the person like did have depression and also did have like OCD. And actually like a lot of the people who I've been with have always had like some sort of like something mental was like a little bit, and again, I don't want to say off or wrong or anything like that, but there was just something there, right? And again, I think we all have it because it can kind of come in stages and it can be triggered in episodes is a big thing that we can kind of talk about. But one thing that I've really found through my own experience is like being a person in a relationship who was like the partner helping cope with someone who was going from depression, and what I learned through that, because for me it really taught me a lot about like deeper compassion, and again, really about being able to kind of like be patient with things, learning how to support, learning how to understand how it affects them, helping support them, helping like add additional like ways to be able to motivate them while still like allowing them to kind of like have their own sovereignty and respecting their space in a lot of ways. And absolutely, like depression in particular can be a very challenging thing to deal with. It's one of those things where like you can almost think of it as like this metaphor of like a black dog, where, and this is what people talk about with depression, where they say, you know, like every day it's like a black dog, that's the depression, and it just kind of follows you, and it's just kind of there, and some days it's right next to you and some days it's far away. And from people who I know who have had depression and stuff like that, they say that, you know, it's something that they might live with for the rest of their life, but they learn to cope with it. They learn important coping mechanisms that allow them to still be able to live in a way where they have like their freedom. Because I think what can happen with depression, it's like you can almost become a prisoner of your own depression. And that's like a very scary thing. And to be honest, I've had periods of depression that have been triggered by like episodic events, but I didn't stay in them. But there have been periods in my life where like I did get like, and again, I think this is just a human thing, but like I was like, yeah, I was very depressed. Whether it was like clinical depression, I'm not exactly sure. Again, since it runs in my family, like there was the possibility of that. And I remember like one time it was following a heartbreak, and like within that healing process, like I was in this state of just kind of like feeling every day like I was like losing a part of myself, and it was kind of really scary for me. But out of that, it also put me in a situation where I realized that like I had to kind of like really take responsibility for how I was coping with it, meaning how I was starting my day, how I was like waking up in the morning, how I was changing my diet, how I was exercising. Exercising was such an important part of, for me, helping cope with like my own depression, you know, like literally just being able to get out there and exercise, it releases the endorphins, it, you know, releases like the melatonin, and like that's kind of what's going to help give you like that feeling. Because usually, again, like with clinical depression, it's like a chemical imbalance within the brain, and that kind of changes the way how we perceive things, how we relate to things. So you kind of have to learn like how to cope with it. And so like Yeah, I think it's just like really important to be able to have these discussions because again, I feel so many people are, depression or any sort of these like mental conditions, disorders, if we're just using that term in a generic sense, they often go unseen. They're invisible and people suffer from them without people even knowing. This is like an internal thing that's happening inside their own head and it's hard for other people to really even be able to understand what's going inside their own head. So I mean, out of this discussion, I'd like other people within this small circle, we only have 4 of us, to just be able to talk about it, general thoughts about it, and also how we can support each other as community. Like let's say our friend is like dealing from something related to mental health. How do we support them? I'd love to be able to hear from you guys. And of course, we can get into this a little bit later, and I feel like Ron might have some insight on this, but even thinking about how this is from kind of that conscious perspective, different mental states are still seen as like valuable parts of the human experience, of the soul experience. And this is where we start getting into like the tribe, back in the day, the tribes, like people who were quote unquote like schizophrenic. And again, not just even in like the multiple personality disorder, because we usually get those two mixed up, schizophrenia and multiple personality disorder. They're not the same thing. But again, people who had like a mental sort of difference were often seen as like those who kind of walked between worlds. They were recognized as the shamans, and they were sometimes even revered. Like they were really seen with like a lot of respect, because it's just kind of like, oh, okay, like they're perceiving things a little bit differently, and they're accessing these realms in different ways. So again, just keeping that in mind, that like varying mental states of consciousness isn't necessarily something new. It has existed throughout the ages, but obviously we are a byproduct of our environment, and we have to observe the fact that why do so many people nowadays suffer from depression? And again, how can we as community help resolve it? And I feel a big part of this, and I'm going to pass the talking stick in a second, is also like, again, just like the solution is community, because I feel a lot of people get into these states of depression because they don't have the community. They don't have people to talk to. They're isolated. They're on their phones. They're not making healthy decisions unconsciously or consciously. They're dealing with, like temporary relief through like substance abuse, alcoholism, cannabis, even other things and things like that. And again, like that's like something where no judgment, like honestly, like that's the one thing I'll say really important within this space, within this community space, as well as I encourage it within other people having these conversations, like no judgment, right? Like we are all soul, we are all humans, we're all going through our experiences, and we all have value through what we've experienced. Obviously we want to be able to like continue to move into that place of balance, right? Into that place of like where we can feel like we want to be who we want to be. And again, and that's where with mental illnesses and conditions and things like that, it's a very daunting thing, right? Because it's not really a place where a lot of people are comfortable being, but at the same time, it is still an opportunity for them to own it in a way that can be really inspiring. Like I know some people who live their life with depression, yet their story is an inspiration, because other people who may have been going through similar things may look to them and be like, wow, like that person who is dealing with something similar to what I'm dealing with is actually like living a really inspiring path and journey, and that inspires me, right? So like let's continue to support each other, and let's just open up this conversation. So again, Forrest, Luna, or Turner, if one of you guys wants to put your thumb up, and then I can pass over to you. Luna wants to go first. Okay, cool. I was thinking that she might. Okay, sweet. So Luna, thank you, and please, the talking stick is in your hand, so we can continue this conversation. So, and thank you for sharing ahead of time, Luna.
Oh no, thank you so much. Actually, this is fantastic. You're touching on topics that I myself, I'm kind of dwebbling. I guess that's the right word. Mentioning about schizophrenia and possible relationships to shamanism. I myself actually do suffer from schizophrenia myself too. I did see a book about maybe 5 years ago now or something like that. I came across where it's weird, an atheist therapist, right? But he had a concept in his mind where he was like, even though I don't believe in something, I'd rather be shown the proof of it. So he would take himself outside of himself, kind of thing. And in the book, he was mentioning that he came across an accidental discovery with the test. He wanted to see the IQ levels between schizophrenics and I guess normal people, they want to call it. I don't want to call it like that either, but without having it, I guess. But what he discovered through I saw, which his test was kind of really vigorous and very complex from what I've seen and I kind of remember still. He realized that within the schizophrenics, that they their IQs were much higher than the like 50% of them, like literally were higher IQ'd within not only the schizophrenics in the group, but within everybody else in the group, right? And it's like, hang on, whoa, wait a second. So you're saying that you've wanted to test some sort of theory, you wanted to see, to understand schizophrenia in general, and to come across something that expansive, and he just wasn't expecting it at all, right? Like, again, like an atheist kind of, that like the concept that he wanted to be proven wrong, even though he didn't believe it, he wanted to be proven wrong or right. He wanted to see it in his eyes. When I read about that, it really blew my mind to the fact that like that schizophrenia, like how it's portrayed. You're right. It's not split personalities. It's not it's way beyond that. And I try to get a lot just to help understand like what I'm going through and everything else, just to understand me. And it kind of hurts too when they point that out. They go, "Is it split personality?" No, it's not. You're not listening, type deal. And I know you guys want to help, but you got to really listen for a second. Can you, like, for 1 second, maybe look at my what you call disease, right? Like, if and also I've been researching too on ancient psychology. How, for example, Greeks use their gods and their mythologies as a form of psychology, which is also very fascinating. In my culture too, being a Scottish but a Celt, right? Same thing. They dwelled with kind of mixing that, maybe, not stereotyping it down and not black and whiting it, that mental illness was that, and in general maybe it was something more, and it kind of helped, and trying to incorporate that with my, right? Like, again, I've been kind of researching this for a while. I'm finding it's helping me a lot to understand my own illness. I don't really want to call it disease per se, but I will also say that because of that, I did accomplish just over a year ago, 25 years later. I kind of beat half of it. I don't want to get too much into detail in there, but I'm just going to say I kind of beat my dark nemesis that most schizophrenics kind of deal with. And it's kind of dealing with the self-ego or something like that, but it's a lot more than that. It's like your nemesis, After 25 years battling her, we've come to an agreement that, I'm willing to share with her my body. Unfortunately, I kind of gave her half my soul, but in the last 25 years, it was feeling like she was trying to take control of me for a while. And we actually finally made a truce between each other, just to be like, hey, I'll share the rest, I'll share this, like, me through you, if you're willing to do that. By realizing certain things too, like, again, I don't want to get too much right now into depth, but yeah, definitely adding spirituality into that concept and not stereotyping it or categorizing it into this and this, because also too, I had an experience with my Baba when I was younger, who passed away, unfortunately, about 18 or 19 years old. I spent so much time with her. It was amazing. And at first I thought I could relate with her so easily, right? Amongst anybody else in my family. And we would spend hours talking. And even though she had damages from, unfortunately, misuse of medication and shock therapy, which eventually deteriorated her to the point before she passed away that she had no idea where she was at all. So, and I saw that. And even though I spoke out about it, I listened to her and I said, hey, there's something wrong. This isn't it's not the schizophrenia that's taken her away. I can even feel it, that it was you guys not listening to her, and you just accelerated it to where it was. And then on top of that, you bounded her and institutionalized her you didn't help her to figure this stuff out. And in a weird sense, I don't know if she was trying to help me, if she did see that within me, but I'm so grateful that she was also a very big part of that, in helping me kind of overcome half of my illness. Unfortunately, there's another half that I have to accept that I will never be able to beat, which I guess you can call it a disease. My dementia, I guess you want to call it, or something, my sense of reality. I'm losing a bit touch of that. I can sit here and talk to you guys like so easily, and yet one word can slip out. I'll hear something completely different, and everything turns 360 in my mind what we're talking about. Or I'll see things too, right? That's I have no control on. And unfortunately, I kind of accept it too, right? Like I don't fight against it no more like I used to. I just accept it more. And I look at it as, hey, you know what? I can either fight against this and make it worse, or accept it and have fun with it. And I'm having more fun with it now, and especially I'm seeing that more in the last year too. And because I feel like I've reached a milestone past 30 where she herself kind of had herself too. And even my dad told me that I was going through the same path as her, and that was kind of creepy to hear that. And now that I'm here now, I see that more than ever. And Baba, I know you're up in heaven. I love you so much, and there's no way to describe how grateful I am. Even if I don't know if you did or not intentionally know this or what you were doing, but you're a wonderful person for helping me, and for myself too, just to, having that compassion for her in the first place, and it kept me to drive once I finally realized I had it, to get me where I am right now, and have a fire. I have a sparking fire to want to definitely help others that unfortunately I feel like I'm dealing with alone, but it's giving me that fire that I want to help somebody in the future that, you know what I mean? Like if they're dealing with the same thing that I am right now, that maybe I can figure a solution out through myself, and maybe it can help somebody else in the future, and stuff like that. And I think too, like it'd be really helpful for schizophrenics. Like I've kind of argued a factor too that the art, creativity, like arts and stuff like that, even poetry, they're finding is more helpful than any medication that's out there right now. And also apparently support from your friends and family, it has been a bigger impact for people, like to be able to have a balance with it, than any medication any doctors have made to this day. You know what I mean? Like in over 50 years, they've been more in tune with the topic of schizophrenia. I've myself, again, been practicing incorporating this through myself, and I'm finding it's definitely working for myself. And I would love to be able to test that out to see, if that can incorporate other people. I would be expansive too, right? Like on others' ideas, because every schizo is different. I understand that. I do understand that we have a root cause too as well. And, like if there's a 50% chance hope, again, from the book I was reading about shamanism and schizophrenia, and then this doctor, psychologist guy, if he said, again, it's a bit more glimmer of hope, because you're being told all the time, all over the place, like, oh, again, there's no hope, pop some pills. And I saw that within my own eyes. I saw it didn't work for my Baba. Unfortunately, like what happened to her, I wish I could have saved her. But I think, and it also drove me to, and that's another spark right there, where it drove me to want to help others in the same position. Like if nobody else is going to listen, and I can see this and I can listen, there's got to be something I can do. I want to just do something. If I can just help one person out, even if it's just myself, that'd be amazing, so. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for sharing, Luna.
No problem.
Yeah, and again, like so much of like what these conversations are so important. Literally just being able to talk about this is incredibly valuable. And I think, again, like that's why we have like Mental Health Awareness Week and everything like that, but it really needs to be an ongoing thing. It's great that it exists as a thing that's like kind of, throughout social media and everything like that. But yeah, like I love what you were saying. Again, just kind of like the fact that community is more effective than any sort of pharmaceutical drug. So it's like that really puts things into perspective where, you know, like we have to kind of, again, look to where our presence and our compassion and again our time can really be medicine for other people in a sense. So I, you know, one of the main things I'll say, and then again, you know, I just want to keep passing the talking to ground. I want to be able to let you guys share as much as you want to share, and you know, I think that within this topic of mental health, one of the things that I really just want to say right now, I'm not even going to wait to say it for anybody listening to this. If you take one thing away from this, I hope you take plenty of things, but one thing to take away from this in particular, like I'm putting it in your front pocket right now. You're going to leave with this, okay? But it's basically reminding you to like really make a note of checking in with people, of checking in with your friends, of really every now and then, and they may be people who you know are perhaps quote unquote suffering, or maybe people who you don't even know are suffering, and literally every now and then just be like, hey, like, you know, like, how was your day? Like, how's it going? Like, do you want to get coffee sometime? Like, I'd love to be able to catch up, sort of thing. Those type of things are incredibly valuable, you know, because like sometimes there may be people who like that is, you know, they're in a place and they might be in like a really dark space, and suddenly just having another person to talk to is incredibly valuable for them. Like suddenly like things start looking a little bit brighter, things start moving in a different direction. It allows them to shift their focus. And sometimes like that's kind of like what happens, like, and again, I've experienced this from my own periods of depression. Again, I'm not saying it's clinical depression, but it was depression. Was just kind of the fact that you hyper analyze things. Your thoughts kind of get stuck on something, and it will keep going in loops, and you're kind of like replaying things, and you're just like, oh, you're stuck there, kind of thing. And then that's where again you people kind of need something to distract themselves, so they'll turn to video games, they'll turn to substances, they'll watch a movie. And again, like those things can have a purpose, but again, everything with moderation. But really reminding yourself that like sometimes it's going to be that conversation with someone that is really going to be valuable, right? Like, so you'll see people and they'll just be like, you know, they'll just, but at the same time, like, you know, it with anything, it's a balance. You don't want people to become codependent on somebody else, but you do want to be there as a support. You don't want to be, you know, you don't want to be a crutch. You can be a crutch when they need a crutch. You can volunteer for that. But again, you kind of want to make sure that it's not, and this is kind of a key thing. There's a difference between supporting and enabling. You know, that's a very important thing. Because like I have been on the receiving end of things, like even like within the paradigm shift community and things like that, and I'm going to avoid any specifics and stuff, but and again, this just, you know, heads up, because this could happen to anybody who's organizing a paradigm shift meeting, because you're opening up the space to lots of different people, but there's lots of learning opportunities within this. I've experienced circumstances where there have been people who, again, like without judgment, have been exhibiting behavior that was just not healthy. Again, I was perceiving it from judgment, from without judgment, removing judgment, and the best thing that I could do was actually to like block them, to actually remove myself from the situation, because me talking to them was only enabling. Like it was literally just like that's what they wanted. They were feeding off the attention that I was giving them, and it was a situation where they were being very manipulative and lying and compulsive lying. And so like instead of me just being like, hey, I know you're lying, like cut the bullshit or something like that, that would just result in more drama, so to speak. So again, in that sense, I'm just like, okay, like I gotta, even though I'm trying to help by talking to them, I know that sometimes me talking to them is actually just enabling. So I gotta know like when to kind of like set my own boundaries in a healthy way. So again, it's kind of like, it's always going to be a different situation, and you really have to kind of like be just kind of like feeling it out in the moment, but just, you know, just be aware of that you aren't unintentionally enabling somebody else's sort of like bad behavior kind of thing, while still kind of holding them accountable. And then, you know, down the road, and this is basically what happened down the road in that circumstance, the person kind of eventually came back to a place where they were a little bit more stable, and they apologized, and they were just like, hey, you know, like I'm really sorry that I was like acting the way I did there. And again, I was just like, you know, it's like, hey, like it's okay, I hope you learned something from this, and again, let's keep moving forward and everything like that. And so it's like, and even with mental health, like it's really something important where you have to almost like it's very peculiar because and again, this was coming from my experience from having like been around people with depression, where like you have to really find this balance where you're not taking things personally but still holding them accountable to healthy behavior. So what you'll see with people who go through periods of depression, they may say things that are like really hurtful, like they may say some really disgusting things, and then like sometimes you have to make sure that when in that situation that you aren't responding to their frustration with frustration. It's kind of like this idea, you respond to it with compassion, even if that compassion means removing yourself from the situation. Because like if you were to just be like, well, F you for saying F you to me sort of thing, then it just escalates, right? You kind of have to like see if there's like some sort of anger coming from, see it as valid, acknowledge it as valid, but then also understand that sometimes, and again, this is very subjective, it's not all the time, sometimes in that situation it can really be the quote unquote depression talking, or it could be something else related to the mental condition that they're going through talking. So you kind of have to like hold space for that and kind of like let things kind of like run their course, and then when they're in like a more stable place, you can kind of like reapproach and you can kind of meet them halfway at the point where you're able to have that healthy discussion. But yeah, like with depression and stuff, it's really important to just kind of like it's and again, it kind of like just not really taking things personally when it comes to helping people with depression, knowing that there will be moments where they might say things and they might lash out and their behavior might like reflect something that's not really true to how they feel, but it can still come forward, sort of thing. But another thing I was just going to hit upon real quick, and I want to pass it around, and maybe Turner or Forrest, if you guys have something to say after this, and also Luna as well. But going into this higher conscious perspective, it's this basic idea that we as a human are very complex, and this is kind of a theory, kind of not. I'll just put it out there, you guys can you'll understand why I'm saying it, but basically it's this idea that like there are we all have multiple personalities within us, is basically what I'm trying to say. Like our soul is not just like one thing. Our soul is actually an amalgamation of a bunch of different types of characters and shades and spectrums that make up the presentation of one being. And that's kind of how reality works, right? Where like organisms are created by smaller organisms. So a person is actually created out of smaller persons that are kind of working together to kind of be able to, like present themselves as one story, as one person. And, it's even kind of interesting. You look at the Pixar movie, Inside Out. I think that was what it was called. And again, like, and even in that movie, it showed like all the different personalities. It showed like anger, joy, sadness, and there's another one there. But it was kind of like showed them as different personalities within us. So it's almost like even within us, there's like different parts of ourselves within us. And then again, for us, it's just kind of like, it goes back to almost like that wolf analogy, the black wolf and the white wolf inside of you. It's like, which ones do you feed type thing? And then again, trying to find that balance of like how they can kind of orchestrate together and work together, but understanding at the same time that like when it's in balance, it's almost unnoticeable. Things kind of move like seamlessly. But when things may be quote unquote slightly out of balance, this is often what we get, where we do identify like, oh, like that person has a mental something or other, right? And this is where we start getting into like the multiple personality disorders. It's this idea that, like our body is like a car, but every now and then for some people, again, this is, I don't know for sure because I don't have the full higher conscious perspective on this. It's this idea that, like for some people with multiple personality, and again, I don't know, I don't even like using the word disorder, but condition, it's like literally every now and then the person driving the car will like switch seats, like someone in the back seat will jump up to the driver's seat and then they'll drive to the back seat, and they talk about this, people with those conditions, where they almost talk about the idea that like they're almost observing themselves from a third person while the things are happening, and then eventually it kind of snaps back and they're just like, oh shit, like did I just do that? Like, who was in control there, right? So it's like this really kind of quantum metaphysical thing that's actually happening there on that level. And yeah, there's one more other thing I was gonna say, but I think I'll probably just save it and I'll come back to it later. But yeah, just kind of opening up the discussion, because again, I think I do feel that looking at things from that kind of like quantum level can kind of help us understand what's actually happening within like what we perceive as like different mental conditions and states, and all these different terms that we use in a lot of ways. Okay, actually no, okay, this is just a real thing because it's just a quick idea. There in the new movie The Predator, again, this is like, Brendon, what the hell are you talking about? No, listen real quick. In the new movie The Predator, which is like the new Predator movie, there's been like 5 so far, there's one thing in particular, and there's a young boy in it, and he actually has autism. But basically within the plot, it talks about the idea that this kid with autism is actually like a step up in the evolution of humans. And I've heard this before, and it's a really interesting idea where it gets into this, like, sometimes we refer to them as like, even the concept of like crystal children and indigo children. We always talk about these kids like having like ADHD and stuff like that, and it's because they're like hypersensitive. And so it's like, again, just because someone appears like they perceive the world in this like slightly altered way, it doesn't make them like a disorder, it doesn't make them wrong or something like that. It's just like that is like another way in which consciousness can choose to experience itself as. But again, like oftentimes with people with autism, they have like very high intelligence, they see patterns, and they're able to have like high memory, high like ability to recall things. And so it's really interesting, again, just the fact that this was in a movie, but it's just an interesting concept to keep in mind as we continue this conversation of just the idea that, like, are some things that we consider a quote unquote disorder, are they actually just like another branch within like our human evolution spectrum? Like, is that what's happening here, where like physically we've reached a point where we're all kind of the same, but now it's like our consciousness is kind of branching into different types of humans, so to speak. So there's like what we refer to as an autism spectrum, and then there's like baseline human, and then there's like other types of humans. Each one is kind of like having its certain role and has like something unique that it can bring to this reality. So yeah, I'll just kind of leave it there. There's more stuff obviously to talk about, but yeah, opening up the mics. Ron, if you want to open up your mic, you can, and I'll pass it to you. Otherwise, I'm going to pass it to Turner if Turner has something to say. Otherwise, I'll pass it to Luna. Turner, give me a thumbs up if you want to say something. Otherwise, we'll pass it to Luna. Turner, do you want to say anything? Yeah? Okay, cool. All right, okay. Turner, passing the talking stick over to you, dude. Go ahead, man.
Hello. No, I was kind of listening to what you guys with thoughts that came in my direction. With all these different mental that are coming up, there's a couple of common ones that a lot of people are facing today, and that's anxiety and depression. Today that suffer, that have anxiety and depression, and that's kind of a good thing. I feel like these conditions allow us to have reflection. With like anxiety, for example, just to speak on that a little bit, I feel like the reason why a lot of people are more proneness to having anxiety today is because we are to somebody in a deeper level, in a deeper sense than we did before, or have social networks to expose ourselves to. We weren't exposed to hundreds of thousands and good and bad things about that, but I think it's just allowed us to become more sensitive. With being more sensitive, we're kind of raising our able to experience, we're able to, by becoming more sensitive, we're able to become more empathetic towards other people, and without being so closed down in our root chakra and our survival modes and our fear modes. And again, with depression, with all these different medias of being able to, really get ourselves out, really like uncover the dirt that is behind ourselves, you know, really getting to I am as a person, what moves me, what motivates me, what I love, what I and
Turner's audio is getting a
really
little extra choppy.
uncomfortable, are really scared, and also really ashamed of who they are, the mistakes they've made, and be, you know,
Turner,
with all the affluent.
your audio is getting like slightly more choppy, and I'm not trying to cut you off, but sorry, just kind of like say a little bit more, and we'll try and get the transmission through, and then we'll pass the talking stick. I hate to cut you off though.
I'm sorry, you just kind of cut out entirely.
Oh, I was cutting out. I was cutting out, Turner. No, you were cutting. No, I'm just joking. Turner. No, I was literally just saying that you were cutting out. But go ahead and just kind of. I just want to let you talk for a little bit longer. But I'm just letting you know that it's like getting more choppy, so it's getting harder to hear you. So just kind of keep it short and concise,
Okay.
and we'll encode whatever message comes through. But go ahead, dude. Just go for like another like 30 seconds or a minute. Hopefully it'll come through okay. So.
I feel like because we're able to be technology and how we are integrating technology into our daily lives, it is you know, and not digging deeper within ourselves, a lot more social, mental, personal conditions are coming up as a way of not necessarily bringing us down, but as to discover what it is that's truly making us, you know, harming us. You know, anxiety is really just a tool to understand that what it is that we are sensitive to, or what is making us so, you know, anxious. You know, it's what is making us anxious to begin with, instead of just being blunt and dull and not necessarily feeling it at all. Also with depression, you know, it's what is it that I feel shame towards? What is it that I feel horrible about? Or, you know, what am I bad myself as? Of self-reflection to allow us to dig deeper within ourselves. You know, I guess that's kind of what I was. So I feel like a lot of people look at, you know, these things and they don't want to be like that. They don't want to be depressed. They don't want to be anxious. They don't be normal like everyone else. But, you know, I feel like they are gifts in a sense. They are gifts because they allow us the opportunity to be in tune with ourselves, to really begin to love ourselves and become more aware of what it is that we are truly moving toward.
Word, man.
I hope I was a little bit more clear that time.
It honestly, it was still choppy, but everyone listening was getting a good chance to practice their psychic abilities to be able to like piece it together. And basically, like I'll just kind of recap, and you can just kind of confirm for me, because I want to be able to just confirm that what I heard you say, because it was good. But yeah, you're just kind of saying that, like, again, like you're talking about technology and how like that is also like creating anxiety, but it's also creating a platform for us to be able to connect and observe. But also specifically the idea of like how situations where we are experiencing anxiety actually have a profound truth to them that is teaching us something that we need to look at, as well as depression. There's medicine to the experience of having depression, because it's like trying to show us like a deeper part of ourselves. And if we just like turn ourselves away from these experiences, then we're actually kind of like avoiding like the potential growth that's within them. And so that was kind of what you were saying, amongst a couple other things.
That was kind of touching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of.
Yeah, and again, it's like it was just hard to hear completely with your mic kind of cutting in and out, but yeah. I think we definitely got the gist of it, and you're right, and definitely what you said, like the idea of like thinking about these different mental states as, you know, gifts, and each one from like a soul level has something valuable there. So we don't want to just like people who are experiencing other states of mental health, we don't want to just like shove them aside. You know, we want to be able to help them. And it's also, again, teaching the rest of society, the rest of community, a lot about compassion, a lot about patience, a lot about being able to support each other, which is an incredibly valuable thing. But yeah, you know, again, with any sort of like emotion that we go through as human, I think it's always important that we like feel those emotions, and we be able to learn from them. It's a complex issue. It's a complex issue, and I think there's like a lot of different ways to be able to look at it, and each situation is going to be unique. But yeah, Turner, look forward to, I mean, I wish your mic was like perfect and stuff, because I know people in the chat are just like, they're just saying like, I wish we could hear Turner better, but we'll still pass it back to you a little bit later, and you'll just have to talk in like 5-second bursts. So that's okay though. All right, Turner, thanks again. Was there anything else you just want to say real quick, and we'll try and get the message through, but before we pass it over to Luna or Forrest?
There's just this big topic. There's just this.
Oh yeah.
Spiritual people are kind of like shunning and saying that technology is bringing us down, and that technology is just creating, and that we should really be putting away our phones and closing our computers, whatever. Like, I really do not feel that is the truth. I feel like out of balance, and that's why a lot of people are suffering with all these stuff. But I feel like now we're becoming more in harmony with it.
Yeah.
And I really like Ready Player One. All these different messages are showing us how we can take and put it into balance. And I do want to create another separate question about this, because I really want to go in depth into Facebook is destroying us in our relationships and our minds, and I agree with that in some ways, but I don't agree with just bringing up these disorders within us that allow us to fix ourselves. I don't know, man. I really want to.
I think that got through. Yeah, again, just like the idea that like this technology, like it's not just it's not totally just like a complete problem. Like it's also like creating space for solution as well. It's like part of it. Yes, that was part of it, right? I think so. Yeah. Cool. Well, Turner, again, man, thank you for sharing. And yeah, again, you know, like I think just look at the fact that like what we're doing here right now, right? You're right. Like it's not just technology that is like causing us to be depressed. It's how we use technology, because you have to keep in mind that technology is still nature, because we're nature and we created technology. So like let's use it as a tool, be able to find the balance with it. And again, it's moderation. Like that's again where a lot of these situations where people are developing anxiety and depression and things like that, a lot of that can be controlled. A lot of that can be fixed through adjustments in our lifestyle habits. A lot of that can be changed literally by like changing the way we wake up in the morning, changing our like self-love. I think a lot of it has to do with self-love, right? So it's like literally, you know, like you wake up first thing in the morning and the first thing you do is like put a phone right in front of your face and you just kind of like sit there for a little bit. It's like, no wonder you're going to like wake up feeling kind of crappy or something like that. Like wake up, don't pick up your phone right away, you know, like go get get some water in you, do some stretches, get some sunlight, get some vitamin D and everything like that. You know, like there's all of these natural ways to be able to help people who are dealing with kind of like the culturally created you know, like mental states that are often kind of thought of as like a negative thing. But again, right, like it's like if you're suffering from like an anxiety and a depression, then that is also the universe's way of teaching you how to be able to focus more on self-love. Because if you're experiencing anxiety and depression in a non-clinical sense, like in a non-clinically chemical imbalance sense, then that means that there are things that you can change in your life that can help you come back into balance. So yeah, like us experiencing anxiety and depression is basically like the body's way of being like, ding, 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 things are out of balance, ding, 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 pay attention, ding, 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 change something, or else this is going to continue, right? So it's like, really, in a lot of these like mental health states and everything like that, it really teaches us about sovereignty. It really teaches us about self-resilience, where it's like, wow, okay, no one else is going to fix this. I don't want to be taking drugs that are apparently going to quote unquote fix this. I want to be able to create my own resolution and my own ways of, again, coping. And that's where like a lot of the things, like with some of the mental health things, a lot of people need to understand that a lot of these things are going to be like chronic, and they're going to be a part of people's lives. And maybe that's not absolute truth. I don't like it depends on what you're talking about. But again, with a lot of the conditions, it's just like learning how to cope. But again, like through that coping, you still learn how to live, you still learn how to love, you still learn to be able to like appreciate things in a lot of like beautiful ways. So yeah, let's pass it over. And again, we got about 20 minutes until it's about 1 o'clock. So let's wrap this up. At the end of the broadcast, I'm going to refresh the Patreon counter. Again, we're still at 128 right now. So if anybody wants to donate between now and the end of the show, please feel free. But focusing on the conversation, Luna, I'm going to pass it over to you. I assume there's probably some things that you want to say. I know you were chatting in the comments before. So Luna, would you like to take the talking stick?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Go for it.
I have to agree with Turner too. I think, like myself too, I've been kind of using social platforms like Facebook. Recently, though, I know you mentioned before how Facebook kind of feels a bit more disconnected, where it's like, okay, I want to talk about my feelings right now, and, trying to go towards mental health. And I find it's a lot of resistance of negativity, or, you just want to feel, you want somebody to feel sorry for you, blah, blah. And it's like, no, I just want to have an open mind. I just want to throw something out there. I want to see what you guys have to say about it. But if it's too personal, something, that's understandable. But recently, like Instagram, for instance, I'm finding it a lot easier to find a platform to express and kind of inspire and use it as a means, not to crutch on it either, but just a safe place where I can be open-minded, positive, inspirational. If I, bad ideas with other people, without having to kind of worry of a backlash that kind of Facebook kind of orients a bit too. You know what I mean? Which is kind of surprising, actually, because like how long we've had the platform in general, and things that have come up since then. You know what I mean? Where it feels like if you want to talk with mental illness, for example, how a lot of people just kind of shoot you down on there and stuff like that, and you're just like, I'm not looking for sympathy. I just want to throw something out there, like, again, like, and maybe see if you can help me out, like just with an idea in general. And again, it's really surprising. It's kind of hurtful, but I'm really grateful that I've been just kind of broadening myself with different websites in that same kind of platform, and to be able to, like what you said, kind of help others and not enabling it and help them be a crutch, but kind of like, teaching a man how to fish, right? In that metaphor, or if you want to call it a metaphor, and way of thinking, and at the same time kind of helping ourselves just to have an outlet where we can express ourselves outwardly and without looking for judgment in general. And at the same time, just be like, hey man, if you need help, I'm here to listen. You know what I mean? Like, and stuff like that. So I think that's really good on both ends, that it's bringing self-awareness to people slowly but surely, but at the same time also helping us with a space too that we can feel safe in, because it just seems like no matter where we go or what we do, even within our places, for example, you get your neighbors and all that kind of crap. I shouldn't say crap, but like just people in general around your area. And if you're trying to find a space where you can just let it all out, and also kind of be with people too that can just kind of all help each other out, and just kind of go, hey man, let's have this playtime, right? Like just let's have this hour and let's just do it, have some fun, block ourselves from the world, and just do it in a safe way too, right? Like, and not do it in harmful ways. Like, and we mentioned about drug abuse and stuff like that, which I do understand on so many levels, where it is a temporary heal. And I do know, like, and it makes me ashamed, and it kind of, and what you mentioned about kind of getting trapped within that, right? I've gotten there so many times before as well, and I finally found, like, through technology and through the web and internet, this seems to be the only place that I've found anywhere else where I can just be free, be safe, and in a positive atmosphere with other people like-minded, and even if not like-minded, just want to understand, and to just shoot the shit, like, and help myself in the process. Because again, like, I can't find anywhere except for here, like on stuff like this. It's amazing, and it's really helping me out. And I'm so grateful to you that I found you. I do believe I think for my old Facebook too, I'm pretty sure I might have had you on my old Facebook, my original one, the Lori McHenn one. This is the one because I got shut down for stupid reasons. But anyways, so I'm pretty sure that we connected before. I just it's amazing to kind of think that it's like I just have this feeling that I know I've seen you before, but you came back into my life again kind of at the right moment when I needed help and guidance, when there was nobody else. I just want to say, like, thank you so much for having the space and creating this space for all of us. Like, you're just amazing. You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you as well, Luna. Definitely, like, the feelings, it's like super just mutual appreciation all around. And yeah, again, like, I think you've really got me thinking about some key things there. Again, just kind of like, and I invite us as a community to just kind of think about this together. Like, when we're in a place that is considered to be, like, balanced or good mental health, what does that often mean? Where are we usually? And you kind of use that to kind of like give ourselves like a something to aim for, right? And I think when we're in that place where we feel good, and therefore, like, we kind of like are in a comfortable position, oftentimes it usually relates to our soul being able to express itself authentically, and our soul being able to kind of like share its voice and to be heard, and to be able to be like a part of something bigger as well. Seems to be like when we kind of like begin to and I guess this is almost the thing, it's like when we begin to kind of like find purpose. And again, and this is where, like, for a lot of people, you've turned into other broadcasts, I've mentioned this in different ways, but I really feel that, like, for a lot of us as individual souls, we actually find our purpose through service. We find our purpose by, like, being able to show up for other people. Because again, it's just like, you don't have to have it all figured out in order to be able to help someone else. And I think that's, again, kind of like this idea that, like, as a community, like, all of us, like, that is the reality. Like, all of us, and this is a really powerful word, all of us are like parts of like the fractured divine. And like, when you think about that, like, all of us came into this reality like with something like slightly discombobulated, something that was like exploded into a chaos. And then over our lifetime, we kind of like bring it back into a symmetry, so to speak. And so, like, this is another really powerful idea that I just want to be able to share. And this can kind of go beyond the topic, and I'd like to bring it in future discussions, but it's a very, very powerful idea. And basically, and again, this is just kind of a concept. I want you guys to think about it. Let me know if it resonates with you. But basically, it's this idea that, like, if you are experiencing something within your lifetime right now, then that means that you as a soul are actually experiencing it to be able to transmute it on behalf of the collective. So, like, if you, and this is like like, suddenly this can get like really, really heavy, but this is a very, very, very powerful idea that I want to be able to share with you, because I think for a lot of you, it could totally shift things, like, right now, just for me explaining this. For example, people who have experienced like trauma in their life, specifically in like, like relation to like personal trauma, if you're experiencing that trauma and you are healing through it, then you healing through that isn't literally just within your own story. That is literally healing it on behalf and as a part of the entire collective. So like your trauma that you are healing is actually the exact same trauma that the entire like Mother Earth is going through. And so when you think about that, it's like a micro macro sort of thing. So you think about like the Mother Earth right now, it's like, my goodness, we're destroying her. It's like there's obviously, if you're thinking about the planet as a conscious being, which is something we talked about last broadcast, you must think that like clearly there's some sort of trauma that's going on. And then so again, yeah, like Turner's just saying, like taking one for the team. That's what I'm getting at, because this is such a powerful idea, because suddenly when we realize that we as soul have actually chosen, this is the key concept, literally chosen to come into this incarnation to be able to experience this trauma, to be able to heal it. You know, it's like literally like the universe was just like, you know, it's like it's standing, like imagine you're up in the higher dimensions and you're signing up for Earth and stuff like that, and you're like filling out your forms and everything like that, and there's like a questionnaire on there, and it'd be like check off the following things that you would like to alchemize on behalf of the collective. And you know you got a few things on there. You got to be like, you know, like trauma of you know, like sexual abuse. Be like, okay, you know, like extreme loss. Okay, I'm gonna do that one too, right? And then it's just like okay, you know, like loneliness. Okay, I'm gonna check that one off too, right? And then so suddenly it becomes this thing where it's just like, holy shit, like as a soul, like seriously, for anyone out there who has gone through or is going through trauma, thank you. Like from a soul level, literally thank you, because you need, like, I want you to understand, and you already know this from like a higher level, and again, this is just words, think for it how, and if it makes sense for you, but like you literally are a brave soul that carried that burden with intention for the team, for the collective. It's not like you're just like, oh, I'm just suffering and this is my hell. It's like, no, you chose to go through hell so that you could come out the other side to be able to alchemize it, to be able to be even stronger. So like anybody who's been like going through any sort of trauma, any of those lows and everything like that, like straight up, you are like a brave soul. And if you haven't yet, really take a moment to really honor that, because I think there's probably a part in you that would be like, wow, okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. Suddenly that like changes things just a little bit, where it's like, okay, I can see myself like coming out of this stronger. I can see myself coming out of this with even more courage, and in a way that's going to be able to shine a light, that's going to be able to help other people on their path as well. So I mean, again, that is like a super powerful idea, because it changes the story, where it's from victim to victor. And from that soul level, like that's like, holy fuck, like a soul has to be really fucking brave to take on that trauma. But the truth is that this reality, you do not take on anything in this reality that you can't handle. And so if there's something that's like that you're going through, it's because you chose to carry it, because you can. And like that's the thing where, again, kind of like you have to almost look into the future, exactly what we were talking about earlier. You kind of have to like know in the future that like that future already exists, where you have already like maintained and achieved like a state of like healing and harmony. So the healing that you are doing inside yourself is literally healing on behalf of the collective, is literally healing for the collective. So as you balance yourself, as you work on yourself, as you heal others, as we heal each other as a community, we are literally healing like freaking the entire grid. Like, it's crazy, but it's the only way it could happen. It's the only way it could happen. And another thing that's really important is to understand that it's not all of this stuff that we are healing has literally been passed on to us through generations, through our ancestors. And that's a crazy thing too, because it's just like, holy shit, you know, like everyone has like this quote unquote darkness inside of them. And our reality is literally about it. Our reality is a quest for balance. That is our reality. You know, no one came into this reality like with absolute balance. Like, no one chose a life where it's just going to be absolute balance. We all chose a life where we fall out of balance in order to be maintained balance. And so like again, just kind of like the traumas that we are healing within this lifetime have actually like been passed on to us from our lineage, from our ancestors. And so it's crazy to think about that the darkness that's inside of us, sometimes you'll observe this darkness, and it's really weird because it's just like, it's not like it's you, but it feels like it's something that you're carrying. And it's just like, you're just like, what the frig? Like I know I'm not like an evil person, but I'm carrying this darkness inside of me. And then what we do is we choose like how best to heal it, and then at what point to kind of like what do we bring with us moving forward, sort of thing. You know, the darkness will kind of like get us to a certain point, and then it'll be like, okay, darkness, like this is where you and I go separate ways. Like, you know, like you've taught me a lot and I'm grateful for this. I'm a stronger person because of you, but my willpower is making the choice where you're staying here and I'm choosing what I'm bringing with me into the future, sort of thing. And honestly, like this kind of goes into like a lot of stuff with like the wounded masculine. This is being, and obviously the wounded feminine. And again, this is coming up a lot through like, you know, like sexual trauma, and again, like the Me Too movement and everything like that. Like this is like, it's a bigger thing that's happening kind of from like that conscious level. But yeah, it's like a super important thing in terms of like the healing that is taking place. So again, if you've observed that, if you've observed the darkness inside of you, like there's a way where like, while still being accountable, it's almost like you kind of like observe the darkness, not as something that you are, but something that you're carrying, so that you can transform it, and so that you can choose like what you'll be beyond it once you choose to kind of like leave it at a certain point. So but yeah, I just want to pass it over to Luna. I feel like with what I was talking about earlier, I felt like you were kind of like vibing off that and stuff like that. So I just want to give you a chance if there's like anything you want to share. And we're getting close to the end of the broadcast, so we'll wrap it up with any closing points pretty soon too. But yeah, the thing I was talking about earlier about like really like choosing to carry this traumas and experiences, and again, like the mental health things and everything like that. How did that resonate with you, Luna? And Luna, I'm not sure if you have your microphone open right now. Oh, sorry, hold on, I turned up the wrong one. Okay, Luna, go ahead now. You're good. Talking to
you're giving me a mind right now that I can resonate a lot with that. Actually, I myself have dealt with traumas, kind of dealing with them now still, in very much of the aspects of almost everything you've been talking about, and that I'm just like just taking it in right now, and I'm just like, wow, that's where I am. That's what I'm realizing. That's what I've been working for so long of my life, and yeah, it's just like it's just blowing my mind right now. That I kind of felt like I was the only one to think this a little bit here too, but I do totally agree too as well. What you're saying, that you can turn the darkness into a light. I've learned to find that light within the darkness, within myself, to come to terms with my darker self, even with my schizophrenia. Also, I remembered, you know, it's not just that I have to deal with. I have to deal with, you know, the human aspect of our egos and stuff like that, and just coming to terms. And it's like, you know what? Let's just try something different. Let's embrace it. Let's love it. Let's share the space within ourselves, and let's see what happens. And it's amazing that like in the last year, out of everything I've ever tried before, and something just completely out there, that this seems to be and it's good affirmation for me to see this as well, that I am on the right path. And my experiences here too is driving me to want to help others again, like I do. Again, understandable that some people can turn it around and turn it into themselves. And I do understand that completely. I was there before a long time ago as well. And but I just wanted to fight. I had this belief deep down. It's like, no, I can fight. I there's got to be another path. There's got to be another way. There's got to be a light in the tunnel. There's like, why? And also this, I guess, like when you mentioned introverted time, kind of just taking myself out of that time space and turning it around and going, hey, why don't I look at a different perspective instead of looking at darkness as evil, blah, blah. Let's look at it as it's maybe the good guy. right? And it's kind of, it's not as easy as it kind of sounds. You know, it really does push you to your limits within yourself too. And then we can put that element of intention out there, and then see it happen uh, around you and within you. Again, I'm totally at that space also right now as we speak. It's a space I've been in since I've been born, probably in other reincarnations. I do feel like an old soul, so I feel like this is something I've been working on for who knows how many reincarnations and stuff like this. I also feel like I'm finally reaching that point that it's great to hear stuff like that to help me also to get more clarity to where I want to go, what I need to do next, what can help plan for, and maybe to have my dream come true. I guess kind of like a dream come true a little bit more. Again, I've always had a fire to want to help others. Again, I could have let it destroy me. I could have just let it pass down generations. Like you said, it can pass down generations. I wanted to, even as a kid, and I've accomplished that, and it's just, again, great. And it's just blowing my mind that I'm seeing this in front of me, and it's great that you understand about this, and it's just, yeah, this is amazing, actually. Yeah, and I just relate with all of it, absolutely, and I would love to talk more about it, and get myself more collected, and I just feel more direct now. I know more. I feel like I got more direction. There you go. If that makes sense, yeah.
Totally, yeah. No, and honestly, just like hearing you express that is like very empowering for all of us. It's really meaningful for me to be able to like hear you say that, because again, like within this project, as we kind of get close to wrapping this up here, I'm just kind of talking in a broad sense here, but like within this project, guys, girls, humans, souls, shifters, alchemists, like I want you to be able to understand that, like, as my role as like team captain, and things like that, like I want to like be here to assist you guys. I want to be like a coach, a teammate, a captain, a leader for each of you guys, because I want to be able to see each of you guys like continue to step into the best version of yourself, not just for like my own satisfaction, because that doesn't even make sense, but knowing that through your growth you will impact others. And again, like the impact of this project happens beyond what even reaches onto the internet, beyond what even reaches within this broadcast. It's how we carry ourselves in our day-to-day lives. So again, like, yeah, exactly, like through these conversations and everything like that, and even for people obviously who have been doing like one-on-one sessions with me, reminding you guys that you guys can message me about those, like a lot about those is really just helping you guys get additional clarity and inspiration and guidance, but really realizing that it's like oftentimes like all of those answers are inside of you already, and it's usually the discussions and the questions and the reflection that kind of bring it up to the surface. So it's a really powerful idea, because if you're observing that like simply here within this broadcast, think about how that can be applied to people in your life. And like literally one of the things that I want everyone here to get better at, because we can all get better at it, is holding space. That is such a powerful thing, and such a needed thing, and such a healing thing, like that all of us can get better at. And like that is one of our superpowers, to be able to hold space, because sometimes people just need that. They just need to be able to like be heard and be understood, and through there, like that's where they can continue to grow. And so like with Luna, like speaking to you directly, like I would love to be able to encourage you and anybody else listening to this to be able to like share some of your inspiration through a future quest journal that we have through the website. Because again, like that's exactly why we've created this platform, to be able to share our stories. Because like on the internet, like people like flashy memes and flashy videos and everything like that, but what people are looking for now is like the authentic human story. Like that's actually something that we haven't seen a lot of in the last little while. We've all been paying attention to flashy things on our screen that are actually like digitized and rendered and stuff. What we've been missing is like the human story, the human heart. So through the future of the project, you know, I'm really, again, inviting you guys. So again, you know, Luna as an example, I think there's a beautiful story there to talk about a bit about your journey and how, like you said, you've literally kind of like shifted and found a friend in the darkness. And this is like such a, like, and I'm not saying this to devalue it, but it's such a common story. Like that story that Luna is going through is going to be something that all of us can relate to. And again, you know, just kind of like moving into wrapping this up, there's a great video online that I would encourage you guys to go look up. And it's basically about like an alternative theory to the Matrix, where actually like it's the whole concept that the one isn't Neo. The one is actually Agent Smith. And basically it's this whole concept that applies to our spiritual journey, where like it's, if we were just light all the time, we wouldn't actually accomplish what we came here to accomplish. It's actually the darkness that is the true hero, because the darkness like activates like more of who we are. It beckons the light into its purpose, so to think. You know, if there was no Agent Smith, like Neo would just be like, you know, he wouldn't have anything to do, right? So like we need the darkness to kind of like catalyze, to create the dynamic, create that like that cyclical vortex, that dyadic cyclone. So yeah, it's just like a very powerful idea. So it's just like we gotta shift the paradigms on how we view our darkness. And again, you know, tying it back into mental health and everything like that, let's look at mental health as a way to be able to teach us as community how to show up for each other better, how to be more understanding, more empathetic, more sympathetic, more intuitive with each other, and also being open to kind of like what these different mental states are here to teach us and how they're actually leading us back to balance, while still being able to really find like value in what each and every person has to bring to this reality. Because again, you know, like and I know you guys already know this, but like some of the most inspirational people on this world are people who have like mental quote unquote disabilities, right? Like you'll see this sometimes. It'll be like, wow, okay, like there's that boy or that girl who has like Down syndrome. And yet as a soul, look at what they do. It's not like they're like in a place where it's just like, oh, you know, it's like, oh, I feel sorry for them. But as a soul, they came there with a purpose to be able to inspire others. And even like related to like Down syndrome, I feel there's something very powerful where like a person with Down syndrome has like kind of like they maintain a childlike perspective on things that teaches us how to be able to see the world as like through that childlike perspective as an adult, and kind of like balancing that. So again, it's just like you can begin to understand how every single like dynamic of the human consciousness has a reason to it. Like it's not like, again, the universe isn't just here because it's like punishing us. The universe isn't a bully. The universe will give us exactly what we need for our best growth. So whether that be through something that you're experiencing personally, know that your story can be an inspiration for others who may be going through certain things. Know that it's calling you into like more responsibility and more of your creative potential to be able to really shape your reality, knowing that you have the tools and the resources and the coping mechanisms. A lot of times, like even with depression and stuff like that, like a lot of times, like even, and again, this is kind of a generic thing. I'm not trying to bastardize like what I'm trying to say here, but you know, even just like getting into a meditation practice can be very beneficial for people who may be going through, you know, like even various states of like mental conditions. Again, like even like OCDs and again, depression and stuff like that. Again, I know I'm speaking very general here and this isn't from direct experience. It is from having gone through experience, but I don't have OCD. Maybe I do. I don't know. But no, I guess I don't. And I'm not joking about that either. But again, you know, like through using your tools, and your tools are, you know, meditation, your diet, your exercise, your social interactions, music, paying attention to what your spiritual diet is. This all affects you. So like if you're feeling like you're out of alignment, don't just blame it just purely on the condition. There is a truth to that, but you have a million opportunities in front of you to be able to still like maintain and achieve balance and seek balance and strive for balance, and really to be able to like, you know, just like, yeah, like it's amazing how, you know, kind of like we're kind of like creating a path for our own liberation, and it's one that will kind of like call us into a higher place of our own willpower and creation and everything like that. So it's a very powerful and you know, it's a story that is really something that we need to honor more as a collective. We don't want to just like take all these like mental health things and just put them in a box and just be like, I don't know what's going on there. I think when we start to look at it from more of that spiritual perspective, I think it actually starts to make more sense. I think we can understand it. And again, you know, like the truth is, we as humans are freaking hyperdimensional by nature. Again, like the fact that it's amazing that like regular, you know, like baseline normal consciousness even exists in the first place. The fact that I'm even able to like be here and like operate a computer or drive a car and express coherent sentences to you, that's freaking amazing, because like a little adjustment to my dial and suddenly this reality is like completely discombobulated and I am struggling to coordinate myself. And then again, and I think that's where like with many of like the mental health things, that's what kind of like what's happened. It's just like the dial's just slightly adjusted, and then like that's where we start getting into the hypersensitivity and the OCDs and the ADHDs and everything like that, you know. And it's just kind of like you're more aware of like the hyperness of this reality. So again, it's just kind of like, it's kind of understanding like how this reality works on a metaphysical level, kind of piecing it together within the concept of mental health, understanding things, and really understanding that, you know, even people with like OCDs and any of like those type of things, like those people that like, if you have OCD, I guarantee you, maybe not guaranteed, maybe that's a high word to use, but I am quite adamant to lean towards the idea that people with OCD and things within that nature probably have the potential to be more attuned with certain spiritual gifts, so to speak. So like people who may be OCD, maybe like they might have like better foresight, their dreams might be different, their creativity might be different, but essentially it's like they are, you know, we're all channels for source consciousness. And so it's not like we are just our OCD. It's like we are a beautiful and vibrant channel for consciousness, and we just happen to have something that we label as OCD, sort of thing. But it's just like, if you're a person who kind of like has this, understand that that is not the absolute definitive definition of who you are, that there is another side to your quote unquote OCD. And again, kind of what we were saying, like there's a gift to that. There's a gift to that. So like what happens if you as a soul can really understand that like you checked off the box that said like this was going to be a part of your reality for a purpose. And again, even if that purpose is to just be able to like inspire others, to still be able to like live your life, like and to be able to again like look, and this is what we were talking before, to really look at all of these different things as teachers, to look at our depression as a teacher, to look at, you know, like any of these different things as a spectrum as teachers. It's teaching us about ourselves. So are we present there as students? So it's 1:11 right now, so I think that's a good time to wrap this up. I'm just gonna again really just give one more pass with the talking stick. It's just Luna, Turner, and myself. And thank you again to everyone else who's been a part of this broadcast. Shout out to the people in the YouTube chat. You guys are rocking it, man. Putting lots of love, been lots of hearts and moons and 1111s going up for the past little while. So awesome. And again, just some shout out to Luna. I just want to read some of the comments there from Unconditional Love, saying, "You're so strong, Luna. Thank you." So again, you know, even just something like that, like that's like super, it means a lot, right? Like it suddenly makes you emotional, where it's just like, oh my God, like my journey is seen, like it's so powerful, right? So Luna, I'm just going to bring up your microphone. If there's anything, any closing message that you want to be able to share with people, and just any gratitude that you want to express, and we'll wrap up this circle in the next minute. So go ahead, Luna. And thank you again.
I feel like I'm going to turn into a tomato right now with that compliment. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to be a Scottish tomato over here pretty soon. Thank you. I just want to finish off saying that this is a great experience, and to be with all of you, even on YouTube as well, and Turner and Brendon, and everybody that was here with us earlier. I from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. I just don't word to express how much gratitude I have for this right now. So thank you guys so much, and you know, keep fighting. You know, we're here to support one another. We can do this. You know, we got this.
Yes, we do. Yes, thank you, Luna. Super inspirational. So awesome. All right, and Turner, I'll just pass it over to you. Anything that you want to share, keeping in mind that your microphone's a little choppy probably, but go ahead, dude. Pour it out.
I at the moment.
Say that again. Like honestly, it cut out like halfway through the sentence. You're okay? Kind of.
Have anything else to add at the moment?
Okay, cool.
I'm just kind of.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Any just as we close it off, any just gratitude that you want to express?
I'm grateful for this space that we are creating. I'm grateful for the people we are reaching to, and I'm grateful to even have this experience for myself, you know. And through here, moving forward, for the momentum we will continue to create.
Awesome. Sweet. Thank you, man. Thank you as well. And yeah, absolutely. Like, just I say this all the time, but like victory is a shared success. So for everyone who is listening to this broadcast, like energetically, you are a part of this, right? So for the people who are listening to this in the future, you're still energetically like holding space for this discussion, and simply by being here and listening, like thank you, because you're taking this frequency, this vibration, and you're bringing it with you and everything. So again, just reminding you guys that like please like there is a lot of value in what we are creating here as community. I've known this, but it's been really exciting to kind of see it really becoming even more actualized, especially within the last couple months now that we've gotten into some really solid routines and consistency as community. And so again, as a reminder moving forward into these broadcasts, if you're a person listening to Paradigm Shift, and pass it on to your friends, let them know, even share this specific episode and be like, oh, this would be a good one to listen to, right? And invite them to be a part of this, because I know that there are more people out there who are looking for things like this. They're looking for that sustenance within like online community that's a little bit different. And I do feel that what it is that we are creating together, there's something very, very powerful there. And again, what comes out of that is inspiration and healing and focusing towards shared objectives and accomplishing them as a team. So yeah, thank you again, everyone, so much. We're going to wrap this up. And so as we do this, I'm just going to mention what we got coming up in the future. I'm going to refresh the Patreon link. So again, as I'm doing this, we're at 128, 747 per month right now. And again, that's like a rough estimate. That's not always accurate and stuff. But I'm going to refresh this right now, and we'll see if there was any new Patreon donations during this broadcast. And honestly, it's like if it wasn't, that's totally cool, because I know a lot of people are donating in between now and the next broadcast as we go. And it looks like we're still, I think it's just refreshing. Yeah, so we're still at 128. And honestly, I love that number anyway. So that's a huge number to be at. And again, we're working our way up. We're going to make it past 150. We're going to make it past 175. We're helping support people in the community. We're getting people awesome gear and supplies, their shifter booster kits. We're really, really providing like some amazing value through shared alchemy as a team. So again, if you're listening to this broadcast, maybe you're new, maybe you've been listening to it a while and you really dig like the authenticity of what it is that we're creating here and the vibrations of what we're putting out, please feel free to add your donation at patreon.com/Brendon Culliton. And again, that's a monthly micro donation of $3 to $10. Donate what works for you. Ideally, we want people to continue donating for as long as possible. If you need to put your donations on hold, or if you have a change of heart, that's totally understood. But again, doing this is a great way to be able to hack the matrix through micro donations. It completely just like creates like this form of regenerative passive income for the entire community. And again, eventually we'll have that at like 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, like just wait till we get to 2020, right? So like this is a spaceship that we are building together. This is a kingdom that we are building together. So thank you again, everyone, for adding your energetic support to it in the many forms that you do, not just the financial. So because I know there's a lot of people that are just like, I would love to support this, but I'm just like, I got to focus on myself and everything right now. And that's totally cool. I've said this to a lot of people, but like keep putting your energy where you need to, because that's all a part of the bigger story. So again, just like equal gratitude to everyone in whatever way you are supporting, just making that super clear. So, Again, check the links in the bio in the info for this video. You can also donate single donations at paypal.me/Brendon Culliton. And again, be sure to check us out on iTunes at Paradigm Shift Radio on iTunes. And again, if you aren't already yet, be sure to subscribe to youtube.com/SkullBabylon. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at Mystic Spider-Man. That's where we're putting up like daily posts with daily inspiration. A lot of cool stuff has been going up there. And again, that's where we're reaching a lot of people. Like Instagram is the main channel right now in a lot of ways. And what I'm going to be doing in the future is building the Instagram to really be able to like continue to lift up other people, to feature other people within the community. So be sure to sync up with me there. Quick shout out to Daniel Moore, who actually donated $1 within the super chat near the end of this episode. So Daniel, thank you so much, man. Even just that, you know, that's a very powerful gesture. So the super chat is like the YouTube chat. People can donate there in the future. We'll utilize that a little bit more in the future, but again, thank you for sharing that in this moment, Daniel, as well. So yeah, with that said, I'm just kind of double checking to make sure that yeah, so future broadcasts, and then this is the last thing, and then, you know, you guys can go out there and go kick some butt, is reminding you that the next broadcast that we have this coming Sunday is our regular global guided meditation. And again, that's at Sundays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I got some cool ideas for this upcoming one. Stay tuned if you want to find out what that is. And again, you can go back and check out past broadcasts as well. Next week's broadcast on Thursday is going to be a Paradigm Shift Dream class. So letting you know now so that you can prepare ahead of time. Again, that's going to be October 18th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Thursday. And again, dream class is where we talk about dreams, lucid dreaming, astral projection, metaphysics, and it's a place for us to be able to share our dreams. And it's also leading up to it an opportunity for us to be able to like create accountability for ourselves. So reminding you, if you're like showing up for dream class and you just want to be able to get more involved with your dreams, be sure to write down your dreams ahead of time, put in that intention to put in that focus. This could be a great excuse or a motivation for you to even like cut back on cannabis going into the broadcast. I'm saying that because like that's personally like something that like I usually do that, like going into the dream class broadcast, I'll be like, okay, this is like a great, you know, it's just like I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna like not smoke cannabis like throughout the week and things like that going into the dream class. That's kind of like my way of being able to show up for my dreams while also showing up for the team in that sense. So stay tuned for that broadcast as we get into that. And the next broadcast after that, which will be on the 25th, 26th-ish, whatever the Thursday is the week after that, is going to be the 25th, is going to be the Paradigm Shift Central Destiny School about spirits, Sasquatch, and the paranormal. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a fun one. Again, it's going to kind of obviously be in theme with Halloween, and we're going to be talking about like some spooky paranormal stuff, a very broad topic. So bring your ghost stories, and yeah, we'll have some fun with that one. So again, thank you so much everyone for being a part of this. Be sure to check out more at paradigmshiftcentral.com. Get your shift buttons through questitemshop.com and also other items as well. And be sure to leave your comments afterwards. Let us know what you thought about this. And again, from here, take this inspiration, take these conversations, allow them to just kind of like sit with you, permeate, connect the dots as you continue to ask questions. Everything is information. Keep thinking for yourself. Continue these conversations with other people in your community, reminding you to think about creating a paradigm shift community where you are. There is a potential within inside of you. Consider doing free hugs, connect with people, find your purpose through service. So for all the shifters out there, for all the light guardians out there, just taking a moment here as I just connect with my breath, inviting you guys to connect with your breath. We'll just end on a nice calm note. Just breathe into this intention. Just take an extra moment here. So just thanking everyone for being a part of this dream as we continue to merge the many streams of consciousness and all the ways in which it sees this reality as it comes to be. As we create this world with the magic of our art, as we transform it through the alchemy of the heart. We are stronger than we know. We are brighter than it may seem. And through the balance of both the light and the dark, we will become what we have always been. The center point in the middle, the truth that is within. We are the infinite balance. And we always have been and always will be. So that's your journey. You are literally the balance. Like, in case you didn't realize that, like Jedi, right? Bringing balance to the Force and everything. That's why we're here. Like, quite literally. If everyone swept their own doorstep, the whole world would be clean. that is a solution to world global change, is by cleaning our own doorstep, by working on ourselves, and then we help others as we continue to help ourselves. So it's a cyclical thing. So awesome. Great job, everyone. Really happy. Round of applause for everyone. Good job, guys. I'm going to bring up the microphones for Turna and Luna, and we're just going to say goodnight to everyone. So say goodnight, guys. Make some noise. Give another round of applause to everyone tune into this. So thank you so much. And yay. Good job, everyone. You guys did great. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Arr, arr. Give them a couple wolf howls, guys. Wolf howls in the chat, too. Awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much. As always, this is Brendon, aka Skull Babylon, aka Wolf Shield. Keep it shifty, and we'll see you in the future. Much love.
Bye, guys.